Hello, you're listening to Otaku Spirit Animecast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here with Chris.
Yo.
Today's episode is our Spring 2025 Anime Season First Impressions Part 4. The last part. We're not doing any more. If we don't get all the shows done this time, we're done. I don't know, we might talk about it in another episode. We still have left to do Witch Watch, Summer Pockets, from Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman, Uchuujin MuuMuu, Rock is a Lady's Modesty, The Too Perfect Saint, or what was it called? The Discard is Too Easy to Discard
Throwaway Saint.
The Throwaway Saint, there you go.
That's what I was calling it.
My Hero Academia Vigilantes, and Shirley, the Mononoke Lecture Logs, and Go Go Loser Ranger. I don't know if I want to talk about Go Go Loser Ranger. I'm somewhat invested in it, but I'm like so far behind on it. But I also did review Moonrise. I don't think I'm gonna do a first impression of that because I technically watched the whole thing. I have a review on YouTube. Go check it out. But I think that's pretty much everything. I didn't want to do the chubby Isekai one unless you did that one. I watched like part of an episode. It's an Isekai. Moving on. Anyways, let's just jump right into it. As per usual, at otakuspirit.com is where all of our links are, social media links, ways to get a hold of us, ways to support us. We greatly appreciate everybody's support channel. But let's get into it. Witch Watch, Chris. You didn't get a chance to get up to Witch Watch, did you?
No, I only seen the first like 5-10 minutes of it.
The new hit sensation. And the popularity around Witch Watch is crazy.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, at least for, was it Anime Corner, I think, or Anime Trending? One of the two of those voting sites is a lot of people are like super hot on it. I think a lot of it kind of started with, because I didn't hear much people chirping about the dang show until like somebody started getting all crazy about the fact that the OP was done by, I believe, the same animator that did One Piece, the letter, that little OVA, fan letter, whatever it's called. And like ever since then, like suddenly everybody's talking about it. And it's like, okay, I guess that kind of spurred people's attention to go check it out, and then they're liking it. So that's good. Anyway, Witch Watch, streaming on Crunchyroll, Netflix, running for 26 episodes, done by Biberi Animation Studios. Sources of manga, comedy, drama, fantasy, romance, slice of life. And of course, the creator behind this series is Kenta Shinohara, who created Astro Lost in Space and Skit Dance. So there you go. But yeah, this one opens up with a girl named, or a guy named Morihito, or nicknamed Moi. And Moi at some point is confronted by his father, and father says, hey, you remember your childhood friend, Nico? Yeah, she's coming over. She's going to stay over here for a little bit. She is looking for a familiar, and you've been picked as her familiar. He's like, wait, I'm a dude. I can't be a familiar. He's like, yeah, we're Oni. And technically Oni, or like essentially, descendants of familiars of witches. So way back in the day, familiars were, selecting animals and whatnot for their familiars. But over time, their mana pouring into the familiar eventually made them evolve into humanoid. And then they had babies. And then that's what you get Oni from. So yeah, we're technically descendants of familiars of witches. So she selected you as her familiar. So you're going to protect her. They also get into this fact that Nico's mother, she had at some point had this premonition that there was going to be this horrible disaster that would befall Nico. So they need to protect Nico because, so that she shouldn't get attacked. So yeah, Nico ends up showing up. Father ends up going on some business trip. He's busy, so he couldn't become her familiar. They kind of made that joke about that. He's like, hey, I would love to be some, high school girl's familiar, but I can't. Anyways, yeah, Nico ends up showing up, busts right through the window. He's like, yeah, she hasn't changed. She used to cause me so much problem back in the day, and she's still going to cause me problems, cleaning up all the crap that she just made a mess of. But yeah, very quickly we find out that Nico has a massive, massive crush on Moi. And so she's looking forward to this whole situation of being alone with him in his house and him being her familiar, so that they can date. So there's constantly moments where she's, in her own imagination thinking about how like he's such a hunk, or man, this is a great opportunity for us to, establish something between each other. But it always ends up turning into this guy just having some blank expression, not even responding to anything she does. Like she'll show up in the morning in her pajamas, walking into the, dining room. It doesn't even faze him. But yeah, she constantly is trying to do different things, like using her magic in order to impress him. And it always ends up blowing up in her face. As I made a joke with my thumbnail for my original video, she's like a fail witch. It's not really much that she's a fail witch. She does successfully use her magic. It's just a lot of the magic that she uses has some sort of side effect, or something happens that makes it just blow up in her face. Like she successfully turns herself into, to show off, a flat as a piece of paper. And then sure enough, the wind just carries her off into the distance, and she ends up getting stuck between like this brick wall and this other brick wall. So if she undoes it, she's just smashed. And so he has to like bust through the wall just to get to her so she doesn't die. It's just goofy little things like that. She ends up going to school. We kind of established this kind of conflict that Nico and Moi has, where Moi is afraid for her safety. This tragedy is going to befall her. I need to keep it a secret that she's a witch, so that she doesn't get people's attention. Thus, whatever disaster finds her. He wants to keep it a secret, but from Nico's point of view, witches aren't allowed or aren't supposed to keep it a secret. They're supposed to be very public about it and help people around them, because essentially, like, the core of the witch themselves starts out like this very, young form, and as they do things for other people, it'll slowly grow and flourish into something positive, into light. Whereas if she were to keep secret, any witches that kind of keep it a secret and hide away end up going into dark magic. So she has to be public. She has to help people, and helping people, kind of whenever she does a good deed, you'll have like this little gem that's in her little wand, and it'll kind of glow. And when it turns from blue to white, it's point which she, I guess, graduates, whatever. But yeah, that's kind of the whole gist there. So she is pretty public. Even though when they go to school, she tries to keep it a secret. She keeps messing with Moi in order to help him out. And it becomes very obvious when suddenly she turns herself into a gigantic version of herself. The cat's out of the bag. And it's equally kind of the situation that Moi is dealing with, is that he always hid the fact that he's a Oni because he hurt a kid way back in the day. It's only caused him problems. And his father kind of helped him learn how to control his Oni powers. But he still kept it a secret because he was always afraid of pushing people, or of people being afraid of him because he's an Oni. But then through Nico, and yes, helping some other dude out, it ends up coming to public to everybody, and everybody's kind of accepting of it because, I mean, we got a witch right here. What's the problem with having an Oni too? It's not hard to believe when we have a witch right here that's making everybody fly in the air. But that's kind of the gist. And then eventually they introduce a Tengu guy, which I think I'm pretty convinced that he's probably the same Seiyu as the annoying guy from Demon Slayer. It sounds just like him. And every now and then he does kind of get a little annoying. I'm like, it's got to be him. It's got to be him. But yeah, Tengu ends up joining. He was some guy that was up in the mountain where she was training in between the time where Moi first knew Nico and now. And so he joins to protect as well. And every now and then they'll get a message from the mother saying some cryptic message of like, this disaster will fall when this happens. Like, when you run into the dog in the rain or whatever. So some little subtle message that gives them a hint as to what's going to happen. They have to kind of piece it together. But yeah, that's sort of the whole deal here. The other characters that are decently important. There's one witch that's from a nearby village where she was scouting around looking for a familiar. She ended up spotting Moi, and she badly wants to get Moi. So she's like following them around as a cat, trying to get closer and closer and spying it out, and eventually ends up in the room with them, and he ends up petting her until she falls asleep and transforms back into her old self. Yeah, there's a teacher that's like super into manga but doesn't want to reveal it. There's a student that's like a really good fan artist of manga and whatnot, and she's like, the teacher's like super surprised when she finds out, and she's voiced by Roxy Seiyu. That's the only reason I know that character. That's pretty much it. That's the gist of the show so far. Just crazy shenanigans happening, magic and all that kind of junk. And the entire time Nico's trying to get with Moi, and Moi's not seeming to get it. My thoughts on the show so far: I really like the show. Most of the time, it's kind of one of those shows because it's so focused on the comedy itself. That obviously, if the comedy doesn't hit, it doesn't really hit. I think overall the story is kind of holding together despite some of the gags not really working out very well, because it has a through-line storyline. The storyline of Nico essentially having people rely on her helping people out, growing as a witch, doing positive things for people, and at the same time trying to get Moi's attention. On the opposite end, it's all about Moi and his acceptance of the fact that he is an Oni, controlling his power, being afraid of using his power, being afraid of hurting other people, having a reason to fight for something, and yes, additionally also kind of getting more into understanding what he's actually fighting for, which again, there's a little bit of obliviousness there, that he does like Nico, but he also has way too much focus on the idea of his job. His job is to be a familiar. His job is to protect her. He doesn't want to mess that up. So there's a little bit of denseness in there, but there's also an aspect there where it's also duty. That seemingly Nico's trying to bust through. I kind of got hints in the last episode that I watched. I got a little bit into the recent episode, which was today. The last episode, they had this whole segment where they were, going on this little trip, and they had this like love tree nearby and whatnot. And there was a brief moment where Nico was like shrunk and she was stuck inside of Moi's pocket, and somebody was confessing to Moi. And he did say something to the effect, or she was asking if there was anybody that he loved. And he's like, no. And that immediately hurt Nico. And she's kind of like huddling up inside of his pocket. And it seemed like it was giving a little sense there that visual cues on the screen, it almost looked like she was pulling out her core. And slowly, as she started getting more depressed, there was some sort of black bubbles that were coming off of it. And it gave me a hint there that they're probably going to get to the whole aspect of possibly her love for him, and the lack of his love back might actually be an element that would not necessarily drive her into being a dark witch, but probably being the thing that's going to be ultimately what kind of pulls her out of it if she does. I just think there's too much flag to the idea that she will eventually bottle herself up and fall into the dark witch category, and that possibly his love for her, which he ends up mentioning something about, I have somebody that's special to me, and that brightened her back up, and the darkness kind of went away. I think that's probably going to be a story beat at some point. Not that that's complicated, but it does sort of serve into what I think, again, kind of carries the story, as some of the jokes don't work for me, is that I do like Nico and Moi's kind of chemistry. I think they're super cute together. Yes, a lot of that's because I just think that Nico is adorable. Like, her Seiyu absolutely nails the character.
She's great.
She has a great, she's got that little dialect in there. She's got that little I'm not sure what the Kanzai dialect or whatever that's in her Seiyu's, how she kind of says things. It's super cute. She's adorable. I just love her personality, how bubbly she is, even having those moments where she lacks that confidence, constantly pushing herself. But at the same time I think that Moi's a fine character, but he is sort of a little bit of the struggle of kind of being that pair because he's so mute too much. I really like when he's a little bit more receptive of what she's doing and more kind of pushing it back rather than just being completely mute. I think the moments where he's like super mute, it's like, okay, that joke is so old at this point. Like, they had this whole moment where the Tengu guy was pushing wind at her so that her hair would flutter just to see if he can get him all doki doki in the hallway. And of course, initially he's just going, what the heck? And then suddenly she's walking towards him and the hair's fluttering. She's going, does he think that I'm cute? And she's like, peek. And then suddenly it cuts to him and he's got the blank face. And it's like, oh, it's just not funny. Like, do something with it. It doesn't always have to be the blank Oni phase. But yeah, whenever he's receptive of it or he kind of shoots back on it, it works out really well. Like the whole goofy segment where she basically mimics, she uses a spell to put on clothes that are in a catalog. But the problem is, and this is the side effect of the spell, because she can only see one side of the outfit on the magazine, it only does one side. So she's going into the room to show off this outfit to see if he likes how she looks, and she the entire time has to keep her back away from him. And so she kind of does this whole like goofy like wrestler thing where she's kind of do the like little stance, or rugby. I guess it might have been rugby. I know they referenced something. I completely forgot what it was. But like a rugby kind of thing, and she's kind of shuffling over around to the other side of the room without showing her back. And then eventually she gets excited and she goes to run away, and sure enough, the whole back's open up and he sees it. But again, like the way that he's kind of responding to her in that situation and calling it out, that's where it's fun. Like I really like that kind of chemistry. Anyways, outside of their kind of relationship, and again, Nico just being adorable and I love her to death, I think the comedy is where my personal issue is. Again, comedy subjective. I like how I thought we say that, even though everybody gets mad at anyways. You said something negative about this show I love. It's because comedy hits different for different people. It is the most subjective thing ever. This show is like, I would say probably some episodes 2 out of 4 hit, some episodes 1 out of 4 hit. It is very back and forth for me, where like a lot of the little kind of comedy routines or little sketches just does or doesn't work. For instance, the whole segment where the teacher discovers that the student is a mangaka, or not a mangaka, a fan artist that she really likes. It was probably the most boring segment I have ever watched in the history of anime. Like, I love the fact that the girl is, Konami Kohara, and I love her Seiyu, but my gosh, that whole bit was like, please get to the next bit, because this is just so boring. It's the teacher that's hiding her secret that she's actually a massive manga fan. I don't care. It's old. At least it didn't go. It was sort of Fujoshi-ish, but it was just like a super manga fan. And it's like, I don't care. Just get to the next bit. And then you have other bits like the whole segment with the where they were trying to save somebody from a burning building, and Nico ends up using this spell, which is to make things lighter. And they were doing grocery shopping. She used the lighting spell on the groceries and made them super light. And so then they have to go save somebody from a building, and there's too much weight on the broom. So Moi's like, make me lighter. So she makes them lighter. And then come to find out there's an effect to it that it not only makes you lighter physically, weight-wise, but it also makes your personality kind of lighter. So he's just making super light of the situation. And then they're going to crash again. And so Nico has to use it on herself just to keep them from crashing. And so she's being super light about the situation. And the person they're rescuing is like, what is even going on now? They come to find out as they're leaving that there's a side effect to the spell. And that's the fact that afterwards, when it wears off, it becomes extremely heavy. So the groceries are extremely heavy. And it's like, oh, where's this going to go? Sure enough, Moi and Nico are at home. And suddenly they become super heavy, but also their personalities become super heavy. And so they're like super glum. Like super glum. Like they even have this little card at some point in one of the episodes, this mid card, where it's like, I guess like a cut content or maybe like an extra sketch where like Moi almost like posted like this massive like blog about like some super heavy subject, but thankfully, it was stopped or whatever. But it's like, it's those little bits like there where I'm like, okay, this is working. Like suddenly I actually like what they're doing here. So it's very hit and miss. I think my biggest problem that I have with the comedy is that it overly explains everything. Like the prime example that I gave in my video that I did of this show is where she uses the spell to make all the students fly. And they have to go through this whole process of the narrator having to explain like each individual student and why they choose to fly the way that they fly. And it's like, you don't have to explain this. I can see that those guys are flying like Dragon Ball. I can see that this is the guy that doesn't want to be a part of the group, but then he decides to be a part of the group. I don't need an explanation of what everybody does. Just show it. And then move on to the next joke. Like, it's not funny when you sit there and explain everything. It overly explains things. They did it here in the recent episode again. And it came back to my mind at that point, but I forget exactly what it was. But it spends too much time explaining jokes, and it's just, again, go to the next joke, or it drags the jokes out for too long, like with the teacher. Just move on to the next joke. It's not that funny. But overall, I'm enjoying it. It's been a fun little trip. It's going to be going for 2 cores, so plenty of content to work with. I am actually a pretty big fan of the original author, so because I liked Astro Lost in Space, so I was actually looking forward to this one. But it's not always hit, but for the most part, it's very enjoyable. I really like it. And again, Nico's super cute. Plus, Nico can turn herself into 4 lollies versions of herself. That was funny. That was a kind of funny bit. Because she like made 2 of herself to move the stuff into her room. And then kind of find out because it's making her small every time, or smaller, it's like her muscle mass, her overall ability to lift things is the same. So even though there's 4 of her, she's still lifting the same much as she did with her actual regular self. But it's like, it's okay because it's cute. So you have like all 4 of them, and they're all having to like, chant to be in synchronization, and then eventually just turns into them making Moi do it. It was cute. And the dog goes after one of them. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's super cute. I'm looking forward to more. But comedy is hit and miss. Comedy hit and miss. I want more of the witch. The other witch, the cat witch. She was super cute because like she's super timid, doesn't like anybody touching her. So like she's like following them, and everybody's trying to pet the cat, and she's like, "Get away from me!" She's running away. And like I said, eventually they get into the house, and Nico's trying to pet it, and the other guy's trying to pet it. She keeps running away, and eventually she just jumps accidentally right into Moi's lap. And of course, this is the person that she's wanting to, hire. And she looks up at him and she's like, "Doki doki," this little cat face. It's just, "Oh, doki doki." And then suddenly she's like, he stops her because she's going to get off his lap. He stops her. And then in her mind, she envisions her like up against the wall, and he's wall planting in front of her. But it's just his cat. And he's like, "You got to do it this way." So he starts petting her chin. And then she's like envisioning him petting like her human chin and everything. It's like everything that he's doing, she's envisioning him actually doing it to her. You got to be careful. You gotta wait before you touch their back, because you got to wait for them to, be okay with it. And then it's like her sitting there. She's like, "Yes." It's just so dorky. And again, she's all about to fall asleep, and she's afraid of, popping back. But then they get distracted, and she runs out the door. Anyways, that's what you watch. What you watch? Summer Pockets, Chris. You watched a whole whopping episode of Summer Pockets.
Yes.
I am happy but disappointed at the same time. Happy but disappointed. I am really liking the show. Summer Pockets, running on Crunchyroll, done by Studio Feel. Source is a visual novel by Key Visual Arts, which of course is the creators of like Clannad, Air TV, all that good stuff. Genres are drama, romance, slice of life, supernatural, and concept was done, and music was done by Jun Maeda, which again, Clannad, all that stuff. So, yep. Summer Pockets opens up with a guy named Heidi, and Heidi got a request by his aunt. Apparently, his grandmother had passed away, and she left a whole bunch of this stuff in her shed because his grandmother apparently used to travel all over the place and used to like collect a bunch of different stuff from different places. And so she needs help. His aunt needs help, organizing it and getting it emptied out. So he decides to, oblige and goes to travel all the way to this island where his grandmother lived and his aunt's currently living, and to help her out. You find out later on that this is like some ruse that he accepted it because he just wanted to get away from life. Like he's having some troubles at his swimming club or whatever at his school, and so he's just like, I need to get away. But yeah, after he arrives there, he ends up starting to stay at his aunt's, and very quickly, as he's traveling around, because he doesn't barely ever help her out. Like of the 5 or 6 episodes I've watched, he literally has never lifted a single thing in that shed. He just like comes there and she's doing something and she's like, "Oh no, you can go out, go around the village or whatever. Go check things out, get some people that you can hang out with, whatever." It kind of gives the impression that the aunt just wants him to, get away from life. Like she maybe found out or something like that. She's trying to help him out, whatever. Anyways. So yeah, all the storylines, nothing about the original reason he came there. He's just kind of traveling around this island and just running into different people, mostly cute girls, and meeting them, and just shenanigans unfolding. For the first 3 episodes, it was mostly kind of introducing each and every single one of the different characters. Most of them around this kind of youth group that are on the island itself. Some niece or some other family member that's staying with him and the aunt. And eventually in the later episodes, last 2 or 2.5 episodes, have been mostly focused on one particular character and her revisiting the island after 10 years to try to find this treasure that they found 10 years ago. But yeah, all the characters we have, Shiroha, which was one of the first characters that he ran into. She was like, he ran into her because he was lost at night, and she was swimming in her underwear in the pool at the school, and he just gets like directions to get to his aunt's place from her. And then later on, he kind of gives her some tips on how to swim because it seems like she's really desperately trying to learn how to swim. They give an impression that she is always kind of staring out into the docks. It seems like she has this desire to fly. I'm kind of wondering if possibly she just wants to get away from the island, or something is out in sea that she's worried about. But she's very much so not very sociable to the other kids on the island. She's very much to herself, doesn't like to associate with people. But it seems like he's kind of opens up into her. Like she's actually opening herself up every now and then, even though she's still kind of timid. All the other kids on the island itself kind of mention the fact that she's always kind of closed off. Ao, which is one girl that he runs into while she's sleeping next to a tree, and he tries to help her, but then she calls him a pervert. At first, like, she wakes up because she's falling over and he catches her, and she wakes up and she's like, be slow at first, something like that. And he's like, so I gotta be aggressive later. And she's like, shut up, and pushes him off. But yeah, she just kind of is, always working at the candy shop. He ends up doing a walk-in on her. She's just kind of a more, I guess, a schooler, but also kind of worker type of girl. We haven't got too much into her. Sumagi, who is like this girl that's sitting atop this lighthouse, and she's looking for herself, and she's apparently immortal. Or what is it, indestructible or something like that. When he asked her, "You're gonna fall and hurt yourself," she's like, "No, I'm immortal," or something like that. Umi, who again is the girl that's staying with them. Again, it's supposed to be a relative. I'm not sure exactly. They kind of hint that she apparently has issues with her parents, or maybe doesn't have a mother, and the father is like very not so much paying any attention to her. But yeah, she cooks rice for him every morning, and he tricks her a lot. That's basically it. And like I said, Komone, who is this girl that shows up with this kind of suitcase that she's kind of toting everywhere. He eventually kind of helps her out, finding all these hints to find this treasure that her friends and her kind of hid away to find this location of this pirate ship that they found when they were there 10 years ago. And it seems like Heidi is probably a part of that group. But yeah, it's kind of just overall a story about a guy just trying to... The gist of Heidi's story here so far has been the idea of getting away from life, coming back here, and as Shiroha kind of puts it at some point when he's talking to her, is sort of trying to discover what summer is about. You know, just trying to enjoy summer again, having that summer vacation that you used to have when you were younger, enjoying yourself kind of thing. But it does seem like they're hinting at the fact that he's been on this island before. Like a lot of things are kind of nostalgic to him, seemingly implying the idea that he might be connected to either just the island or some of the individuals in their past. So my current theory is that he's a ghost that is able to, or he's a ghost that's able to merge himself into the girls' histories, or it's going to be one of those things where each of the girls are ghosts that are able to include him in their histories. That's my crazy theory so far. Because it's
him being a ghost. Him being a ghost, it makes more sense to me because he was all edgelord at the first 5 minutes of the show, and where he kept going, "I'm a
angel without wings" or something like that. It's the Lucifer.
I'm a bird without wings.
It's Lucifer. The granny's like going around telling everybody there's some kid that thinks he's an angel without wings.
I love the granny. The granny was great.
So what's your thoughts?
The first episode, absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved seeing reinvigorating a lot of my love for key properties. The humor, like Andrew was talking about, a lot of the humor was there, and it was just spot on. Like I said, the old lady just randomly pointing out. She wasn't really. It didn't seem like she was actually paying attention. She was just asking him and then what or something like that, and he just would keep on going on into it. Messing with Umi was absolutely fantastic. The like Andrew pointed out, so if I go aggressive later, that's okay. That kind of humor of it was Tomoya or Tomoya. Yeah. His kind of humor where he just was just a nutcase and he just absolutely messed everybody up with his humor. I absolutely could see Ryoichi and the girls that were shooting water guns at him. I could see a lot of that ending up being an absolute blast of just humor from just a buddy type thing that he had in some of the other shows. So I think I have a lot of excitement for this show. I can't wait to finish the rest of the season out with it.
Yeah, I think the key thing that I was kind of taken away from watching the show early on, and it's kind of continued so far, is it's got a Clannad feel to it. And Clannad, when I watched Clannad, was like at this point where I kind of I started getting sick of like the visual novel adaptations where it has like these very blank main characters that just has a bunch of cute girls, and you dive into the cute girls' stories. Where Clannad was like very well wrote to the idea of having Tomoya, the main character, fire back a lot. Like there was a chemistry with the characters, and I felt like that when I first came to this show. It was like especially the moment that he runs into Umi for the first time, or when they do the whole little rock paper scissors over, you know, their chores, and she keeps losing, and she's like, "How are you winning every time? You're cheating. You're obviously cheating." He's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of cheating, but it's because your face every time you go to shoot, your face says the word that you're gonna do. So like if you're gonna do, you know, papers, your face looks like you're saying papers or rocks or whatever. So he sees literally the word that she's saying, and so she goes out loud, "Oh, so I'll just make this face when I'm doing rock." And then he's like, "Okay, now I know she's doing rock." So he ends up winning again, and she gets really mad. So she decides to like have this extremely blank face, and then she ends up winning. But like the back and forth between the two of them, like there is like, this is so freaking cute. And then later on with the whole picture that he finds, or he gets his package comes in, and she's looking in the box, and there's this little photo of him with all of his swim club buddies, and she's like, "Is that you in the swim club?" And he's like, "No, it's not me with the swim club. It's me with the swim trunk club." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "That's not a real club." And he's like, "Yeah, it is. Go ask Aunt Kyoko." And she's like, and she runs out the door and says, "Aunt Kyoko, what's this swim trunks club? What's the swim trunks club?" And then like by the time she gets back, he's gone. But she like runs around the corner and says, "You're lying. There's no swim trunks club." It's like, it's such a cute innocence that he plays off with Umi's character, showing up like without a shirt on all the time and flustering her. Their chemistry
she blew up over that.
super fun, their chemistry. But yeah, like that kind of extends to all of them. I mostly with Ao, it's mostly like ecchi humor. Again, I love this so much. Did you see that scene with them walking in on Ao? He wouldn't have got that because that was second episode. So he goes to the candy shop. he opens up the door because the lady says, you can go to the back. There's a fan back there. It's much cooler back there. So he's like, thank you so much. And he goes to the back, and she's working at the candy store, and she was just changing into her uniform from her school uniform. So she was in there changing, and he walks in right when she's changing, and she's got her butt hanging straight at him with no skirt on. And it's like this, of course, the usual kind of like she's glancing back at him, and he's looking at her. And then eventually, like, her face starts to red up, and he just goes, screams, and he chucks his shaved ice right at her butt. And she just screams out loud, and then it cuts to, like, yeah, her, like, with the pose, like, what the hell are you doing? He's down, like, this little cow toe pose, and she's, like, questioning why he walked in there, and it's the goofiest conversation between the two of them, because the logic's there. It's just, it sounds absurd. So she's asking him why you did that. Well, I was told I can go back there. Well, why were you back there changing? Well, I'm a student, then I come here to work. So obviously I'm going to change here. But why'd you throw the ice at my butt? Well, I just kind of panicked, and so I felt like I needed to cover it up. Oh, sure. If you're panicking, of course you walk into seeing a girl changing, your obvious response is going to be to cover it up. So yeah, that makes sense that you threw the ice at my butt. And then it kind of turns this whole thing where he's like, it's fine, we could do an eye for an eye thing where you can throw ice on me. So she's like, that sounds great. So she throws ice on him, and he proceeds to throw back at her, and they're throwing it back at each other back and forth. Like, why do you keep throwing it back at me? Again, the chemistry is so on point. Like, the entire thing is so on point. I love, like, all these exchanges. Like, Shiroha, he ends up catching her, like, pointing out in the middle of this river, radar, like she's shooting something like she's like a character from a manga. And he goes to hide, but then she catches him, and she's flushed about it. So she makes it up that some sort of like ritual in the area that they say like this one phrase. It's like this, what do you call it? It's like a mantra, whatever. And so he like just goes along with it just so that she doesn't feel embarrassed, but she's still embarrassed, and she hates him and leaves. It's just so good. Visually, it looks really good. I think the studio's doing pretty solid so far. But overall, it's just been really cute moments with really great chemistry. I'm loving all the characters so far. I think my only pause right now, and it's really going to be telling in the next episode, and it's really also another reason why I'm sort of concerned for the show, is again, I'm pretty sure, I think it was about 3 episodes so far of just Komomi. And Komomi's story has been okay. I just like their chemistry together, so it kind of works. But I'm not sure yet if I'm sold on her story yet. And so I'm really hoping that this final, like, story beat of her story is going to be, like, impactful in some way. Again, it has implied that he knows her. Like, we at first got a lot of brief shots of Komomi and her time with her friends and how they went out to find this pirate ship. And it got a little bit into, like, how she was very reserved with herself, and that they kind of pushed her off to do this camp in order for her to open herself up more. And that she's, like, extremely out of her zone being with people. And this was, like, a great way of her kind of being, pushing herself. And it's implying that he was in her past, but it's a person with a different name. And so I'm kind of, again, in that theory of, like, is it really Heidi and he just had a different name? Or is he implanting himself in those memories somehow? And I guess depending on how her story goes, that's going to be telling on if the character stories are going to be good, because so far it's not great. And so not that that's going to make it bad, because again, these 5 episodes have been fantastic just on chemistry alone. I just hope that the actual character stories are going to have oomph to them. Like, again, going back to Clannad, I loved all those stories. Those stories were all fantastic. I really liked them. So I'm hoping these ones have equal impact. Again, also with that is the concern about how long is this? I don't even think to this day we have an episode count. I've heard people claim that it is going to be a 2-core, and that apparently they've already produced the 2 cores. I have yet to see an actual statement about that. And so I hope it's at least 2 cores. Not to say they have to force themselves, because yes, I want to keep it looking this good, because the show looks good. But my concern is, like, I hope that it at least has 2 cores, because again, how much time they spent on Komomi. it looks like they might be possibly spinning at least 4 episodes on each of the girls, and that ain't gonna fit. I'm assuming. I think the original story had 4 story arcs. Was it 5? Yeah, I think it was 4 story arcs. I think the original story, has Shiroha, Ao, Kamome, and Tsumugi. And I think they released later on another story, another add-on, or at least a second release of Summer Pockets that had like some extra story arcs, which I would assume probably going to be Umi and maybe Shizuku. But either way, I would assume they're going to at least do the first 4 characters, which that would kind of line up to have 4 episodes for each one of them. But we'll see. I don't know exactly how it all lays out, if it's similar to Clannad, where it's like, again, technically having each of the characters have their own story arc that you can go down, and then there's like that one overarching storyline, which is obviously going to be Shiroha. There's going to be somebody in the middle there, maybe Umi. I don't know, maybe we can find out that Umi's dead. One of them's going to be dead. We just know one of them's going to be dead. Which one's going to be dead, by the way? So far, looking at it, who do you think is going to be dead? Who do you think is going to be dead, dying,
Probably
or an animal?
Since she already told you that she's immortal.
I'm thinking Tsumugi, because she's always the lighthouse. Like, she's the only one that we haven't really seen interact with other. Well, no, she interacted with Komome. Well, I mean, she could be a ghost. Umi's again also interacting well with them and interacting with all the other kids at the school on the island. So she's definitely not dead or dying. Which one would be an animal? Komome I could see being an animal, because she has a hurt leg and she keeps bugging about. But again, everybody's seen her. But again, I think the island's distorting things. I really do think there's going to be some sort of deeper plot line. The island itself distorts reality in some way. And I think that Heidi, in being there, is sort of assimilating, is the best word, assimilating into their memories. So it kind of allows him to have familiarity with each one of them and their struggles. And I think that's what's going to kind of allow him to sort of experience multiple summers with each of the characters.
Well, Inari was with Ao, wasn't she?
Inari?
Yeah, the mystical being.
Oh, yeah. That's his little mascot character. I think it's supposed to be a dog or something, but it's his mascot character. They have to make it look super unique, even though it's like not like, if you've seen that thing, you'd be like, "Holy crap! What is this alien creature that you have with you?" But no, it's actually like a dog or a cat or something. They just make it like super unique looking so that it sells. Something like that. I'm still wondering what's in Komome's suitcase. She ended up losing it in this recent episode, and I really thought there was going to be something in it, like a body. Komome's like lugging around this body. I like how like they're going to go down this railway in order to get to where this pirate ship is. And as they're kind of traveling on the railway, she's kind of struggling a little bit. And he's like, "You want me to help you with it?" And she wouldn't let him take the suitcase. Like, she always either has to be carrying the suitcase herself, or she has to be riding on top of it with him pushing it.
No.
And finally,
they're all dead. They all died on the pirate ship.
There you go.
I forgot what we're talking about. We're talking about a key property.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said dead, dying.
With everybody dead.
That's why I said dead, dying, or an animal. There has to be dead, dying, or an animal. But no, I like at some point they're like traveling on this railway, and he's like, "You want me to help you with it?" And she's like, "No, I have it." And then she's like, "Don't worry, because I have off-road wheels." Like, again, there's like this big, huge suitcase thing with like 4 wheels on the bottom. That normally the wheels are like this small. They're like those small cast wheels. But for some reason, she got like some off-road ones. They're like, I was like, girl, that's not going to help at all. I mean, the whole idea of that stuff is like adding like a little bit of like surface area and a little bit of like unevenness to the tracks or whatever. But it's like, girl, that's not going to change anything. It's cute. It's very cute though. Very cute though. Very cute. I just like the idea that she has different casting wheels inside of her suitcase for different occasions. Oh, I'm gonna get back on the road again. Hold on a second. Takes out the jack, replaces the wheels. This was, I mean, at some point he ends up pushing her all the way to the top of this one hill, and they go around this one corner, and it's like this long slope down, and she just randomly decides that she's gonna jump on top of the thing and ride it down, and he's chasing after her because like, holy crap, girl, you're gonna wreck and you're gonna hurt yourself. And she's riding this thing down, and she's super happy and having fun. She forgot to change the wheels to her drifting wheels because she hit that grub railing real hard and flew right in the water. So if only she had gotten that better traction on those wheels, she probably forgot to take off the off-roads. We have like, there's gonna be like this whole like lore and story behind Komame and her suitcase tires. Anyways, I'm loving it. I want more of Shiroha. Shiroha stole my heart like ASAP. I mean, obviously, like it's cute him walking in on her swimming in her underwear, but Konami Kohara. I don't know if you heard it, but I was like, oh my gosh, Roxy, she melted me with her voice. Oh man, this is gonna be my favorite character. And then like, I mean, personality wise and whatnot, I love them all. Like as he interacts with them, I haven't got enough of Sumigi besides the fact that she's the one with a verbal tick, because you always have to have a verbal tick character. Oh, yeah. You know, I forgot what she says. Ugu. She doesn't say Ugu. What does she say? Mungu or something like that. I forget exactly what she said, but she has a verbal tick. But I haven't got much of her yet. But Shiroha, I just love because there's Seiyu. She got that little cuteness into her that she's kind of hiding away. She does the goofy little things when nobody's looking, kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely like all the interactions with Ao, because yeah, there's the walking in and throwing the ice on her butt, him asking for her school uniform to disguise Kamome as a somebody from their school so that Shiroha's father doesn't think they're foreigners. So he goes up to Ao, point blank, like he doesn't even bring Kamome with him. Point blank walks in that candy store and says, "Ao, I need your school uniform." And she immediately, of course, is going to be extremely flustered by this. Like, what, you pervert? No, I have a friend that's a massive fan of them. And so she's like, "Oh man, I'm not used to having fans." He's like, no, of the uniform. She really likes school uniforms. Oh, I knew that. Every encounter that he has with Ao is just, it's more leaning on the ecchi side, but it's just always funny. And yeah, Komame is just kind of neutral fun. Like, I think that she's a lot more mature than the rest of them. Seems to kind of has her acts together. And the ecchi for her is great too. But I'm loving it. like Komame, they're like traveling together, and she gets so sweaty, and she's like, "Okay, can you set up the camp while I go, wash off, because I'm feeling sticky." So she goes over and she gets in this nearby spring or pond, and he's just kind of thinking about like giving an excuse to go over there and look. Like he's thinking of like a line that he can give, and sure enough, she screams out, and so he goes running over there like no hesitation. He's got his excuse. I'm not claiming that Heidi's a good boy, but he goes rushing over there, and of course she's got like no top on, and she's kind of covering herself a little bit, not doing a very good job of it because there's plenty still showing. But she's like screaming. She's like, "There's this thing over there," and he's like, "Yeah, there's definitely something huge over here." And she looks back over at him like, "What? No, what are you looking for?" And then suddenly this like boar comes out the corner of this grass or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, you must have startled her," or something like that. He must have seen you and got excited. And she's like, "Oh, that's what happened. Excited." Just so dorky. It's again, gold chemistry. I love it. I can go through every single goofy interaction in this show, but I highly suggest it. I feel it's like a return of key visual arts is what it really feels like. The kind of writing that I absolutely miss from this group. So after Rewrite didn't work out too well, and Prima Doll didn't work out too well, and what was that? For me, even Charlotte before then didn't really work out very well. It's good stuff. I really like it. Anything else on that one, Chris? How do you think visually it looks?
Well, what I seen was fine.
It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Let's move on to Country Bumpkin. Well, from old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman. I guess I can let you look at it too, so you know the characters I'm talking about. Might help you with like engaging a little bit. You can enjoy not Roxy and not Lolly Mage and not Nanahoshi and not Edis and not Sylphia and not Paul Greyrat. Yes, the Paul Greyrat Isekai show. It's not an Isekai, by the way. It's a joke. It's not an Isekai. From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman or Katai Naka no Osan Kinsei ni Naru. This one is streaming on Amazon. That's probably why nobody cares about it, unfortunately. Studio is Hayabusa Film and Passione. The source is light novel, action, adventure, comedy, fantasy. And this one opens up with a guy named Beryl Gardnant. And he is a swordsman trainer in this like out in the sticks country village where he trains swordsmanship to all the students there. They even have a lot of people that will kind of travel there or move there just so that they can have their kids kind of train under him. But yeah, he's kind of helped his father's dojo kind of take off. But now that he's like, I don't know, an old fart, I think he's like 30 something. He's an old fart. He's getting way too old. He's got gray hairs and everything. Now he's getting older. His grandfather's like, or his father's like, hey, when are you gonna give me a grandkid? Like, get with one of these students or something. Like, well, give me a grandchild. You're getting way too old. And he's like, look, I helped your dojo really take off. I don't really have time for, love or whatever. I can't be getting love. I can't have a relationship with my students because you even said it. Love is not allowed in the dojo kind of thing. He's like, no, just pick one of your students or somebody. Get somebody. Give me a grandchild. Well, one point, there's one of his students shows up at his doorstep, and that is Lucia Citrus, and she was somebody that he trained a long time ago, who has then since gone off to become like this commander of the Order of Knights of the Kingdom. And she has decided to come there to give him a order from the king to go to the kingdom and basically try out to become like their instructor for the orders, or the actual knights. And so they're like, oh, well, you can't disobey that order. It's from the king. Kind of have to go. She got a carriage ready. They go the next day. They head off to the kingdom, where he ends up meeting all the order. Very quickly, like the vice captain underneath her questions if this barrel guy that, like, everybody knows who he is, because Lucia tells everybody how incredible her master was. And so a lot of people are obviously very skeptical of, is he really that great? Some swordsman trainer from this country. So enough, yeah, the vice captain, he wants to test him out. They have a duel, and the vice captain's like, nobody can beat him. Like, he's incredibly talented. But yeah, sure enough, Beryl very easily wins against him. And it's funny because like the entire time it feels like Beryl doesn't really have much confidence in himself. So he's just kind of like, gosh, I feel really bad because it's obviously that Lucia has been like really talking me up to all these people, and I really don't want to let her down and make her look dumb. So I'm going to try my hardest, but gosh, I hope this doesn't look bad. But sure enough, he ends up beating him. And what sort of kind of follows this is that he just kind of keeps running into different students that he trained like at some point in the past. And you kind of get to see where they're at now. Like, for instance, Surina, she was somebody that a long time ago he had discovered her like on this creek bed because her parents had been attacked and she was the only one that survived. And he ended up taking her in, nursing her back to health. And then at some point, she kind of noticed him training, and so she wanted to kind of train with him. And so he trained her for a long time. And at some point, they finally found somebody to adopt her. She went off to the main city, where she eventually became an adventurer. And now she's like the top of like the adventuring classes. That's how much she's kind of grown. So each one of them has a little different story. Lucia was one that her parents moved there at some point, and he trained her in the sword. She went off to the Order, at which point she really badly wanted people to recognize Beryl's talent. So she focused on becoming the commander so that one day she could appoint him to be training all the Order. So that was kind of her sacrifice for him. One was this one girl, she became a mage, and so he's like, oh crap, she must have not liked my training. But it ends up that she had talent for mage too, so she became a mage knight. So kind of still using the talents that he gave her, but with magic as well. And eventually kind of goes in this whole storyline where he ends up bumping into this homeless girl that was trying to pickpocket him. She was trying to get money to help have her sister resurrected. But then it all gets into like some deeper plot line of the evil church and how they're trying to amass something in order to offset some great catastrophe that's coming. So the evil church, That's basically Old Country Bumpkin story so far. I'm two extremely conflicted minds with this one. First of all, visually it looks solid. I do like the character designs of the show. It's very unique. It's got a nice kind of style to it itself. The only place where it kind of starts to falter a little bit is some of the combat sequences. It implements a CGI. The CGI does sort of match the style decently well, but it's pretty obvious it's CGI. Like suddenly out of nowhere it goes from like 2D style where it's really kind of detailed, and then suddenly it cuts over, and suddenly the character has a little bit of an odd ovalness to them that's not what wasn't there before. Like, okay, now they're doing some CGI stuff here. It does a good job of kind of matching in there, but there is some CGI uses. But for the most part, it looks really good. Some of the combat sequences themselves are really well put together. I like a lot of the swordplay. I think there's a lot of thought put into the strategy and the way they fight. I haven't quite gotten a full glimpse as to why they seem to think that what makes Beryl so great, it seems to be that he's very good at adapting. He's very good at seeing what his opponent's doing and sort of finding some way to get around it, and not just going for like the typical strike or defense. It's really kind of working with whoever you're against, your opponent, and using their strength against them. Like with the first guy that challenges him, the vice captain guy, his whole thing was that he does this like secret technique where he like spins around like a top or whatever. So he just kind of went in with the momentum and got in there. So it's kind of just finding the weaknesses and kind of exploiting it. But yeah, it's got a good style to it. The fighting styles themselves are good, and again, the choreography with the fight sequences are pretty solid. Getting into the actual show itself, what I like about it, I do like Beryl's story. I think I find him to be a very stand-up guy. Like, he is definitely a believable, like, you know, older gentleman, adult that is he's kind of established what he wanted to do with his life. And it did seem like he was a little bit kind of hesitant in kind of uprooting and leaving behind the dojo, going to the big city and having to deal with the situation. And he does constantly in his own mind kind of show his own, he's very much so not full of himself. And I do kind of appreciate that. But yes, it does sort of kind of start to fall into that realm of the oblivious main character. I don't really find him to be like your typical oblivious character, like I can parry everything kind of guy. The idea of like every time that he does something, he's always kind of like, what? I didn't do that. Or no, I'm not that special. It doesn't really so much rely on that. It's just more so much the idea that he just doesn't really know his full potential. This isn't somebody that is massively OP. This isn't somebody that has like, if he slices to the right, suddenly everything cleaves in half and he's that overpowered. But then he just goes, oh, there must have been an earthquake. That's why that entire mountain fell over. He's not that kind of oblivious main character. He's just the type that doesn't really necessarily know the full extent of what he's done for people around him and the appreciation that people have with him. But I will admit that, yes, it kind of still has that same flaw where everybody's constantly saying how amazing he is, but he doesn't believe it. So it's still something that's not really avoidable. But at the same time, I don't find Beryl himself annoying because of it. It's just more of a product of everybody else. Everybody else is still kind of doing it. But yeah, I found that as the show went on, it's less reliant on that. But he is somebody that I do find to be a really cool guy. Like, he's just somebody that does seem like he's touched a lot of lives. That's where we get into the problem, though. That's where we get into one of my negatives. I like and appreciate Beryl as a character and how he has nurtured so many people's lives and helped so many people out. And I like seeing how each one of those individuals eventually confronts him and goes, thank you for doing so much for me. This is how much you changed my life. Thank you so much for what you've done for me. Getting into their backstory and seeing where they all kind of first met Beryl and how he helped them out. It's wholesome. Like, it's super old guy wholesome. Like, this guy literally feels like a father figure to literally every single one of these characters. But why is that a problem? Because father figures don't work with harems. It's like I'm having this weird conflict where it's like, I like my harem shows. I love fantasy shows with a bunch of hot chicks. It's fine. Yes, all these girls are super cute and hot in their own ways. I like Serena, and she's like this fiery adventure girl that looks like she's Edis but not tsundere. She's just the fiery chick that just slice things in half without even thinking about it. This chick's great. And again, I love her story. Alicia is super thirsty for Beryl. Constantly think about how she can possibly get him on a date or see if she can talk him into staying at her place instead of getting an inn. Love it. That's pretty much the only ones that are kind of so much showing a lot of interest in it. But I like all these characters. The Nanahoshi wannabe girl, the mage girl. If Nanahoshi could actually cast a spell, the mage knight girl. I like all these characters. They're fantastic. But when you spend so much time kind of seeing this nice wholesome nature of Beryl and how he kind of nurtured them and helped them up, it kind of feels off when it's interrupted by a harem joke. Like, again, kind of getting into Alicia and everything he'd done for her and how much she appreciates him, and then suddenly she badly wants to get him to come back to her place or take him on a date. Yeah, it's kind of jarring. It's a little jarring. Like it's one of those rare moments where, as much as I love harem shows, this is like one of those rare moments where I'm like, I kind of wish this did it. I kind of wish this would keep strictly to the basically the life of Beryl and how much and his touch on the world. Like, why couldn't it just be that? Because it's not as if the harem elements are adding anything to it. And I would even argue, besides Serena and Alicia kind of butting heads and kind of getting an argument about who's gonna help him find a place to stay, Alicia is really the only one that's kind of after him. Like, Serena doesn't really feel like she's after him. Kuronese doesn't feel like she's after him. Facile doesn't really feel like she's after him. It's just Alicia. But it does still kind of feel like a harem. And again, I almost feel like it's not really necessary for the show, because it's so kind of wholesome adventurer guy, dojo guy with adventurers mix, add in some situations that he's having to help out with the order with. Overall, I'm kind of conflicted with the show. I still really like it. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't know. Was it like am I 4 or 5 episodes into it? At the moment where I'm at, they've just taken down the Pope guy, and Miui has moved in with him because Lucy found him a place to stay. I'm starting to be concerned as to if this show will feel fulfilling in the end, because we're like, if not almost, but we're halfway through the show so far, and I don't feel that it's going to get to anything fulfilling. I don't get what its want is to do. I don't know what its purpose is to do. I don't feel an end game. I don't feel like a direction it's going. They've sort of hinted at the idea that the reason why the order currently is trying to build up is because something's coming. And that's that whole kind of, again, the Pope thing and all that kind of stuff. We'll see, though. Again, the Pope kind of insinuated something that they were preparing for, so we'll see, though. I'm enjoying it, though. Paul Greyrat, if he wasn't a dirtbag that messed up Lilia's life and went on an adventure, but instead got isekai to another world where he trained a dojo. He looks like Paul. He just looks like Paul. Just that's about it. He does not act like Paul. He does not act like Paul at all. No, I was joking. This is the story of Paul Greyrat if he didn't mess up Lilia and decided to take over Lilia's father's dojo. Because they wanted him to. He could have. And then eventually they're telling him to have a child, and he doesn't want to have a child with Lilia. Anyways, dragging that one out too much. Let's check out Uchuujin MuuMuu. Uchuujin MuuMuu, Chris. Gonna finally talk about that one. There's a couple of shows in this list that I'm like, I swear I talked about these shows. Uchuujin MuuMuu, or Uchuujin MuuMuu is a Japanese title, so it's pretty much the same. Studio is OLM. Source is a manga. Genres are comedy, mystery, sci-fi, slice of life. Sci-fi. I was like, sci-fi. Anyways, this one opens up with Sakurako Umiyashiki, and when it first opens up, she's just going to this like introductory like starting party with her classmates at her university. It's like a nice little welcoming party to kind of break the ice. And she keeps asking about microwaves and how they work. And they're like, why do you keep asking about microwaves? Well, it's because in her backpack, she has an alien named MuuMuu. And MuuMuu is through telepathy telling Sakurako to ask them more about the microwaves. Because as we find out, after she flees the scene and goes back home to find MuuMuu destroying all of her appliances, this cat disguised alien, MuuMuu destroying everything. This MuuMuu is an alien from another planet, where apparently sometime recently, 2 conflicting sides of the planet went to war. And in an effort to destroy the other side, each side sent assassins to kill all their smartest scientists and intellectuals and destroy all their technology in order to cause ruin. But that ended up making all of them pretty much have none of the technology anymore. All their smart people are gone, and their society is declining. So they all got on spaceships to travel through space to try to find some intelligent life forms out there that have technology that they can steal, basically getting information and whatnot, intellect. And so they found Earth, and thankfully it looks like it seems like cats are like king on this planet. I didn't know it seemed to imply that they disguise themselves as cat because they thought that the cats were controlling things, or they've always looked like cats and the cats were the aliens.
I have not been able to figure that out at all. So.
The way they introduced it, MuuMuu was in a spaceship and he was a cat. And every time they show them on the planet, the history and them telling this history story, they were cats. So my assumption is that when they arrived, they thought they were kings because they were cats. But anyways, either way, he comes there thinking that he's going to be king, but there's not really king because, again, the cats, to a cat, they feel like they're king of the house. So that's the whole joke there. But anyways, yeah, MuuMuu ends up crashing into Sakurako's apartment, where at that point she has... The whole thing that MuuMuu is doing is to gain information from Sakurako about our technology that he can send back up to the mothership, and so they can get enough information they'll be able to survive. If they don't get enough information about, appliances and technology before a year runs out, their supplies will run out in the spaceship and they'll have to invade. So Sakurako's kind of forced to have to like give in to MuuMuu and help him, absorb as much information as possible. And that usually includes him destroying random appliances, figuring out how they work, and Sakurako having to Google how they work because she has no clue how they work. But she has to explain to MuuMuu, who's this alien, how the appliance works. In the meantime, of course, Sakurako still has to go to school. She ends up joining the appliance repair club, where there's like these nerds that will put appliances back together and fix them, whatnot. So she's using that as sort of an excuse to, one, have her appliances that MuuMuu destroyed at home get fixed for free, but at the same time also learn how to fix appliances and learn how they work for MuuMuu's sake. So that's sort of the gist. Every now and then she kind of gets run-ins with different people. We obviously very quickly find out that she has some massive social anxiety, so that doesn't really help her out much. There's this one girl that she ends up running into this guy Akihiro, who is like, someone that she thinks is hot looking. He ends up helping her because his current girlfriend is like being super nasty to Sakurako, and he kind of steps in and helps her out because he knows that she has a cat. He seems like to really like cats. He ends up joining the appliance club with her, and that's kind of throwing her off because she doesn't think that she wants anything to do with her. But it seems like obviously he's probably joining for her because I think he likes cats a lot. I think he really likes cats and he likes Sakurako. So there's that kind of cute little like doki thing happening between her and her trying to get courage to talk to Akihiro. And yeah, just hitting each character. We got a little bit into Wataru, who is like the lead of the club himself, and how he's been trying to hit on this one girl at school by helping her recharge her phone without having to plug it in by shooting microwaves at her phone while it has a wireless charging ring on it. That was pretty crazy. Okay, that's a little bit much there, dude. And yeah, that's been pretty much the gist so far. Them going out and getting different like discarded appliances and calling the authorities on them if they're not usable. That was dorky. She ends up catching them like early in the morning. Wataru's like on this one bridge and he's scouting out these people that are dumping appliances on the creek bed line. And like he calls, they're like on the radio with each other. The other guy's checking to see if they're usable appliances or not. And he's like, "Are they usable? No, that screen's definitely messed up. We can't use that." Suddenly Wataru just puts down the radio and picks up the phone to call up the authorities. Yeah, there's somebody discarding stuff. It's like, so if they're usable, they weren't going to call. It's just kind of dorky. Otherwise, they're trash if they do that. Otherwise, we're going to use it. So what do you think of it so far?
This show wasn't really working for me. I like Sakurako. She is absolutely adorable. MuuMuu, I'm not feeling at all. The most entertaining I've gotten out of this show so far, honestly, and this is saying a lot, was Akihiro's girlfriend that was obsessed with dark places with him. Between that and Wataru trying to charge Sonoko's phone, I absolutely got a kick out of that. I thought that was just too cute. But yeah, Miwa and her random, anytime a light goes out, she's going, "Where's Akihiro?" Girl, chill out a little bit.
I see the other two members. That must be in the alone. They gotta be alone.
But outside of that, it's like, I got kind of I got a kick out of the tearing her stuff apart for a second. And then after that, it was, yes, I find it informative to see kind of the information that they're kind of explaining stuff. But after a little while, it's get to the point. I mean, half of the episode was dedicated to the microwave. The other half was dedicated to figuring out how does a refrigerator work, because it's not actually pumping cold air, it's actually pumping the hot air out of the thing. I knew that. I mean, it's not really helping me to learn anything, and so I ended up finding it boring.
I think I do focus on that because I don't. Well, my opinion that how it felt was. Now I will say that like I think like segments like what was the X-ray? There was only a recent where it did feel like it went on a little bit long, the explanation for it. But I feel like for the most part, the explanations are very short. Like probably not even. I would say a minute, 2 minutes, the most of an entire episode will be given to kind of explaining how something works. The most part is just kind of the characters, exchanging, having, conversations about stuff, or again, what's going on with MuuMuu, or just Sakurako dealing with things. It doesn't feel like the explanation of how the device itself works is that much time. It's usually the discovery of it, because, yeah, the joke is that Sakurako is having to learn it on the fly. And so to try to explain how things work to MuuMuu and him understand it is difficult. Even though she can say, yeah, I just Google searched it and it says that it pulls the heat out, it's hard to explain to MuuMuu how exactly that works. And it isn't until he ends up eating a bunch of really hot curry and suddenly she's like, oh, that makes sense. I can tell you kind of how it works. And I like how it sort of does kind of tie in other things as well, like getting into the aspect of like the friction with the hands and it, her having a brief memory of her grandma back at home. I guess she's like somewhere way up in the north because it's like really cold up there. So she has like this really brief moment where she recalls back to her grandmother and how she used to always warm her hands up, and it gets some cute little story about her remembering something, and then her applying that to MuuMuu and having to explain it to him how something works, like friction. I think it does it well enough that it's not super like info dump about basically reading an appliance manual, which she technically has done with like the vacuum. But that's all for me to say. I love this show. Now I will say I understand that a lot of people are probably going to be like Chris in this regard, and I'm probably going to be extremely alone on this. This is one of those shows as I'm watching it, similar to I want to keep on this Apothecary every time I think about it. Apocalypse Hotel. Same with Apocalypse Hotel. When I watch Apocalypse Hotel, I love it. I find it to be super charming. I have the same feeling here. Love it. Super charming. But similarly, I know that I'm the only person that's going to like this show. Like, I feel like I'm going to be completely alone on both of these shows.
There's going to be those things. I mean, there's been lots of times where you'll sit there and you'll go on a random rant about a show about how it's doing certain things, and you get really annoyed at it. And I'm like, I don't remember it doing that long. I mean, my first inclination was when you were saying
damn Segoys.
Yeah, when you were saying that you didn't take that to. My first inclination was to say, well, the hand turner thing, they did that for 20 minutes too. Well, to me, it felt like that.
Oh, the mixers?
Yeah, the hand mixers.
Well, I didn't explain it, but it's a process.
They were modding the hand mixers.
She's fixing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. To me, those seem like exaggerated moments because it seems like that just droned on forever, and it was like.
So you're talking about the whole segment, not just. I'm talking about like when I was talking about like a minute of something at most was the explanation about how something works. Yeah, not necessarily the whole segment where she's actually doing it and then she's like feels achieved.
I mean,
my whole point there was that
even the changing the plug, it felt like that took quite a while to fix the plug, and it's like, I get it, right? You turn the thing, and
so my point is that I don't find the overall scene a problem, but I will agree with you that I can see people having an issue with the explanation part. So like with the replacing the plugs. it goes into the whole thing where it cuts away and it shows a diagram and it's showing how they open it up, and then this little lead goes to here, and then you screw it back in and it gets put together. I understand that being a problem, like that explanation, diagrams, the do-it-yourself explanations, the walkthrough. But I don't find like the overall scene to be hampered by that. Her actually doing it and feeling achieved by doing it, that's a story bit. Whereas that's a do-it-yourself walkthrough. Like it's the manual segments, and then there's the character moment. I think is where I kind of just differentiate it. Because I can honestly see that. As you're watching the show, it's pretty much like 3 different segments. The show is split into 3 pillars. It is Sakurako going to university and dealing with her own social anxieties, what she struggles with. Yes, having now attention brought to her, her being kind of forced to have to interact with people, getting out of her comfort zone and really pushing herself out there, all the while having like her own insecurities about whether this is even a good choice for her to be or not. And yes, there's a little bit in there about the fact that she feels like the world's going to be doomed if she doesn't do something. The other aspect is the comedy around MuuMuu and how he is essentially driving her crazy, destroying all of her stuff, and the goofy interaction with the two of them, and the whole space alien stuff that's happening. Then there's this one last little bit right here, which is, it's obviously this creator has a thing for appliances, or at least they wanted to explore the concept of the nitty-gritties about how appliances work as sort of a gimmick in their series. And that bit right there, I think, is probably the only part where me personally going into the show, I was struggling if it was going to be something that would ruin it. And so I came into it with a skeptical eye. But as I watched the episodes, I felt like it wasn't enough to have a problem. Yes, for the most part, every single thing they've gone through, I've done before, or I know exactly how it works. Nothing so far is kind of like, oh, wow, that's how that works. It's kind of basic stuff, like how a vacuum works, how a microwave works, how a refrigerator works, how x-rays work, how all these different things, a blender works. That stuff, it's all stuff I kind of know, but I don't feel that it spends enough time in it where I get lost. Because like I said, it kind of does a little quick, somebody's explaining it to Sakurako, she connects it, and then Sakurako applies it, or MuuMuu applies it, and then we kind of move on. So with that kind of 3-tier system there, I think it does well enough to balance it, to kind of keep it going. I think just overall the show kind of just works for me, the 2 main things that really, really work for me is I love Sakurako's character. I think she is just too damn cute. I root for her. She's kind of a Bocchi character where you just kind of like, girl, you could do it. Girl, no, girl, you're special. No, girl, you could do this. No, Akihiro, this dude totally freaking wants you. Girl, you got this. Come on, girl, speak up. Come on, girl, you could do this. Get that courage. Every time that she kind of is flustered or some big situation's happening and she's just like completely outside of her comfort zone, I'm like, girl, please, you got this. She's special. She's absolutely special. I love her character design. I think the designs in the show are super great, but her character design is phenomenal. Her flustered face, her constantly like just kind of doubting herself. She looks great. MuuMuu, I'm surprised you don't like, because you like the cat characters, or the animal characters, but at first I didn't like MuuMuu because god dang, this dude's destroying everything for Sakurako.
I can't stand MuuMuu.
He's ruining everything for Sakurako. Especially with this last episode, he did something really sweet. Because like they went this whole process of talking about like how Wi-Fi and everything works, and suddenly he disappears, and she thinks that she got him upset because she was afraid of him because some other guy got like literally a hole put in his forehead by an alien spaceship. So she was like hiding from him for a brief moment, and so she thought that she insulted him, and then she finally gets home, and he's literally destroyed every single thing that would ever like produce a wireless signal. He destroyed all of them because he wanted to protect Sakurako. I'm like, okay, he's cool. Okay, cool. He did something bad, but still kind of cool. No, yeah, I found MuuMuu to be very obnoxious, and I think that's the whole point, obviously, is that he's this obnoxious alien that's destroying things and causing her to panic all the time. So I think like his character kind of facilitates that he's going to be annoying as hell. I like his like interaction with the other cat. Akihiro had a cat, and like this dude is super. They think that they are a very superior race, so they find humans to be underneath them, and so the idea of MuuMuu like essentially working alongside Sakurako is like an insult to their entire race, and so he literally almost kills MuuMuu But as they're fighting, eventually they end up getting the cat stuck in an automatic door for a grocery store. He has to end up like giving up, and Sakurako saves him. So like this crazy ninja cat that has this massive blade ends up getting stopped by an automatic grocery store door. Foiled like that. But no, overall I find it very, very charming. The show just oozes charm. I love the characters, their interactions. I will admit there's times where the show gets a little bit slow, but overall I just find it to be a very, very cute show that I'm enjoying a lot. So again, fully acknowledge that it's probably not going to be for everyone. You'll know within the first episode or two if this show's gonna. I would say probably if you want to get an idea thoroughly, I would probably say give it at least 2.5 episodes, 2 episodes maybe, and that'll kind of give you a sense of like everything the show has to offer from those 2 episodes. Because I don't think with the first episode you get enough of her kind of struggles in school life, whereas I think episode 2, I believe, kind of gets more into that stuff. So yeah, I love it. I'm enjoying it. Anything else on that one? Mm-mm. Nothing else on Uchuujin MuuMuu?
No, it would really depend on the personal relationships on and how it handles that, because on that side I do enjoy that part. The other side not so much. I don't much care for that.
What other side? The aliens?
I guess pretty much anything having to do with the aliens and the appliances.
Rock is a lady's modesty. The next one, Rock wa lady no tashinami deshita. Streaming on High Dive. Bandai Namco Pictures the studio. Drama music is the genres, and the creator is the creator behind Mushibugyo. I don't know if I want to talk about this one. Skip it. No, anyways, this one opens up with Lidisa, and she is going to this new school. We find out at some point that her mother has married into a new family, and this family is a prestige family, the Suzunomiya family, which is this like high-end family, and so she now has to go to this one school where all the daughters of prestigious families go to. And her whole thing is that she doesn't feel like her and her mother is being accepted into the family properly. And so her hope in this new school is to achieve this, like the Maidens of Maidens title of the school. It's the honor students of the school. And she's hoping that if she achieves that title, it will look good upon her and her mother, so that the Suzunomiya family will have to accept them properly. Because currently they're kind of just... they're commoners. Essentially, her mother and her were previously commoners, and so nobody looks at them properly. But anyways, as she's going to the school, she's trying to do everything possible to hide her past, which is like, yeah, her father was like super into rock, and so she got into rock, and she knows how to play the guitar, but then she discarded all that and all of her, improper ladylike personality and whatnot in order to be the lady of all ladies. And so she's going to the school, making to get all of her classes done properly. She's studying every single night. And at some point, everything kind of gets flipped on its head as she ends up bumping into this one girl, which is like everybody else is kind of seeing as going to be the one that's going to get that title, Otaha. And Otaha is just a very beautiful lady in the school. And after she bumps into her, she realized that she dropped this guitar pick. Well, later on, while she tries to follow Otaha to try to give it back to her, she follows Otaha into this one club building that's like way deep in this forest, where Otaha is playing drums, like crazy playing of drums, like rock band type of playing of drums. And so Lilisa says, "Oh, hey, you dropped this. All right, I'm gonna get out of here." Otaha's like, "Oh, you know what a guitar is. You know how to play guitar, right? Because look at your calluses on your fingers. You used to play it, right? Come play with me." And she's like, "No, that's just not ladylike. I'm focusing on this thing." And then Otaha just basically makes a remark like, "Oh, you could just say that you don't know how to play or whatever." And that, gets her worked up, and Lisa picks up the guitar and starts playing. They start playing together. Eventually they stop playing together. And then Otaha immediately tells Lisa that she's garbage and that she should never play guitar again. That infuriates Lisa, and then they start having interactions at school where Otaha really badly wants Lisa to play the guitar with her again, and Lisa like refuses because you insulted me, and then eventually she eggs her into playing the guitar again, and they play the guitar again. They decide at that point that because they like it so much, and Lisa, despite having discarded guitar from her life, thinking that she'd never play it again, she badly wants to, and so she decides to open a band with Otaha in secret, not allowed to tell anybody, and so they're playing guitar in secret with each other as a band, even though she can't have anybody know because she's trying for this title, and if anybody knew that she's playing guitar, she would lose that chance. And that's basically all I've seen so far. Yeah, every now and then she accidentally outbursts, like when she's in school and stuff like that, because of their fighting they constantly have after every single practice session, because they have some weird obsession with after every playing session they have to scream insults at each other. And yeah, my thoughts. Super mixed enough that I have yet to go back to it. I think I've only watched like maybe 2 or 3 episodes of it. I think initially when I first seen the PVs and stuff like that, my assumption was going to be like this whole Gap Moe thing where it's like, oh, prim and proper ladies, and they go behind the door and suddenly they turn into crazy chicks that are doing crazy rock goth stuff and insulting each other and cussing each other out. And then they get the prim and proper shirts on and they walk out the door again and say, "Gokieng yo." I assumed that was going to be for the most part what was going to be, and unfortunately, so far, what I've seen, most of it is that. Like, getting into the actual show and watching it, I got pretty much that, and that was my biggest fear, because I just don't... it doesn't work for me. Like, I know that's like super funny for a lot of people. For me, it just doesn't work. It's just like, okay, yeah, I get it. After the first time you do it, it just doesn't work anymore. Like, the whole idea there is to subvert expectations. Once the expectations are subverted, I know to expect it going forward. It's no longer funny for me. And so to constantly have this kind of back and forth with suddenly out of nowhere, you know, Otaha's being super crazy derpy face and she's going all crazy into the drums, and then she's cussing out Lisa, saying that she's absolute garbage at the guitar, and then Lisa's saying, no, you're absolute garbage, and then they say, okay, and they go back to school. Once it's good. I'm good at that. After the first time, it just doesn't work anymore. What my hope was, we kind of talked about with our preview, my hope was getting into what it seemed like was the core concept of the story, which is that whole, the drama aspect of the story. This isn't a comedy. What are they going to do drama-wise? And that seemed to be mostly focused early on with Lisa and her relationship with her family, the Suzunomiyas, and her ultimate struggle with whether or not she wants to accept what she used to love so much. She loved guitar. This is something that her father brought her, and she loved it. But she had to get rid of it at some point and give up all the joys of her life for the sake of her mother being accepted in this family. And it seemed like a lot of that is weighed upon her and that struggle that she has. And it's sad to see how much of the interaction that she has with her mother at home, it seems like her mother's constantly worried about her. Are you doing okay? Are you fitting into school? Is this everything going well? And obviously Lydia says, like, I'm fine. Everything's working out great. Cut forward, and suddenly she's, again, dealing with the struggles of wanting to do what she wants to do versus what she has to do for her family, or at least her mother. I like that stuff there, but I didn't feel like it was enough presence in the show to warrant keeping my interest, because most of it was just Otaha constantly begging her to go play guitar with her, even though she immediately proceeds to cuss her out afterwards and say how horrible she is at her guitar. I wanted to give it like a couple more episodes to finally decide on if it's something that I want to keep watching, but just based on what I've watched so far, wasn't really feeling it. Wasn't really feeling it at all. I think it has its moments, but for the most part, I just don't... Everything around the guitar and the drum play ruins it. Like, every time they are alone in that back room, no, it just doesn't work for me. Like, their chemistry outside of it's fine, almost kind of the seemingly manipulative nature of Otaha, but I don't care about anything around the band stuff, and that's where it kind of ruins it for me. And plus, there's only so many times I can see the same CGI character drumming at the damn drums over and over again, or the same CGI motion of the guitar playing over and over again, just different angles. It's like, I can't stand the CGI band performance on repeat over and over again. I don't know. Again, I have them in my queue. They're sitting there, but I can't decide if I want to press that play button or not yet. So that's Rock is a Lady's Modesty. What's next, Chris? What's next?
I don't remember.
Two Perfect Saints, or what was it called?
Throwaway Saint.
Throwaway Saint. Is that like the better raw translation of the Konpeki? So no, because Konpeki is basically perfection, right?
No,
Konpeki.
all I know is that dude threw her away.
Yeah, Konpeki Sugite. That should be perfection. Anyways, yeah.
I thought I remember at some point them saying that she was thrown away, but I don't know.
Oh, the subtitle is Tossed Aside.
Tossed aside.
The Two Perfect Saint, tossed aside by my fiance and sold to another kingdom. The title that says the entire story. Konpeki Sugite Kawaii Saikaigi ga nai to konyaku haki sareta seijo wa rengoku ni urareru. This one's streaming on Crunchyroll, running for 12 episodes, done by Studio Troika. Source is a light novel, fantasy, romance is the genres. And yeah, this one opens up with a character that is known as the Two Perfect Saint, Philia. And Philia is like everybody like uses her. She's like super useful. She's able to like do anything that people need. There's like a sense that a lot of people like give her like the ultimate impossible task just to make her fail at it, but she ends up pulling it off. Like making like a cure for something, she'll just pull it off. But like yeah, she's handling everything, making medicines for people, putting up barriers, taking out monsters. Like we find out later on that she has like a regimen of like waking up like early, like crack of dawn, and going out and handling all all these different tasks and getting everything complete. Like she has everything laid out. But yeah, we get to find out that this is not really something that everybody seems to like. Like it seems like most every single person of this kingdom that she's living in hates her for it. Like, my gosh, how dare you make medicine for us? We hate your guts. Everybody seems to hate her. And that's mainly because her personality and how she seems to handle a lot of stuff. Yeah, it does make sense that they do have at some point, it gets into how a lot of merchants and whatnot don't really like her because she's, providing things that they're normally supposed to be handling or whatever. But there seems a lot of works in the background of people trying to get rid of her, including the prince, which the second prince, Julius, apparently she's set to wed him. And she was excited for this. Like, finally, it seems like I'm being acknowledged because it seems like my family hates me. She's finally being acknowledged, and it seems like the kingdom itself is accepting her. But kind of find out, Julius is trying to figure out some way of getting rid of her because he thinks that she is annoying. She's too perfect. He hates her personality. She's very blank. She's always focused on like studying so much and getting everything done properly that she has like no expression. The other person in this same kingdom, there's actually two saints. It seems like every kingdom wants to have at least one saint because they erect barriers, monsters, and whatnot. There is two saints in this kingdom. The other one is Mia, her sister. And Mia is like pretty much the opposite to her, and where Mia's not really that good at being a saint. Like she could do a decent job, but everybody loves Mia because she has this sparkling personality. She has the bright smile. She's just lovable around. She's got a great personality. And that's the one that Julius wants to get with. So Julius enacts a plan to have Philia sold off to a nearby kingdom that just lost their saint, and they're needing another one. And so they sell off Philia to this person, which the prince from the other kingdom was currently scouting out another saint replacement, looked up information about Philia, found out how incredible she was. And so the moment that Julius brought it up, he's like, wow, I don't know why they're wanting to get rid of her, but yeah, sure, we'll take her. We'll pay you like a massive amount of money. And Julius takes that. But yeah, without letting Mia know, which that sucks because as we find out, Mia, the not so perfect
Didn't they
saint,
say it was like a year and a half of the entire kingdom budget or something like that?
Yeah. The only person it's that whole aspect of like, okay, Philia gets sold off. She's like, wow, crap, they're just trying to get rid of me. Well, that's fine. I guess hopefully I can, be useful to this other kingdom because they wasted that much money on me. Not sure why they spent that much money on me. They're probably going to put me to work once I get there. She just kind of goes with the flow. But yeah, they forgot to ask one person about this transaction. That was Mia, which again, Mia, being a sister, she's like the only person that cared about Philia. Like Philia was like her like her joy. It does give us perspective at some point where Philia is in the kingdom that everybody hates her, and it seems like everybody doesn't like what she's doing, and she's constantly trying to figure out why people don't like what she's doing, and like, can she improve? Does she need to get better? It was only Mia that was like her only beacon of light. Like, whenever she seen Mia, it was like, oh, finally somebody that actually, you know, brightens my day. It was the same for Mia. Mia is the same thing. Like, Philia is the only person that is like her joy is Philia. She looks up to her sister. Her sister's so fantastic. So the moment that Philia has sold off and they claim to her that, yeah, Philia ran off and, you know, left the kingdom to go to this other kingdom, Mia's like, she wouldn't have done that. Philia is the too perfect saint. Like, if she was leaving, she would have left like a full breakdown of all of her duties so that somebody could take over all of her tasks. Philia is not the type that would just disappear. Something happened. So Mia just like proceeds to try to figure out what the hell happened. And it's pretty obvious very quickly because Julius is like immediately like, oh, Mia, since Philia's gone, I would love to marry you. And she's like, yeah, Julius is probably involved. And so she kind of goes along with it in order to weed out what the hell Julius did. But yeah, following Philia to the New Kingdom, as expected with a lot of these types of series where somebody gets sold off, an unappreciated person gets sold off somewhere else. Yes, this New Kingdom, everybody loves Philia. And now suddenly she has to discover how great it is to actually have people appreciate every single thing that she does. And everything that she does is super sugoi, and everybody loves Philia there. But there's quite a bit about Philia in the New Kingdom where she is sort of discovering or being sort of pushed to at least express when she wants stuff and kind of find things that she does enjoy, because the guy that buys her, Oswald, he does apologize very quickly that he did purchase her. It wasn't really intent. They just needed somebody to protect their kingdom. But he's very quickly trying to, you know, show her that there's many things to the kingdom and a lot of people will appreciate what she does. But yeah, what are your thoughts on I was sold off from the hero's party and now my new party loves me?
The hero's party.
I was kicked from the hero. I was joking about it in my video. It's like these types of stories where it's about like the girl in one kingdom is treated horribly by the prince there, and then she goes to another kingdom where she finds a really great prince and everybody loves him there. That's sort of like the female lead character version of the kick from the hero's party stories. Yeah. It's the same basic concept there. Because then you have like, yeah, there's always one, sometimes there's one other member of the party where they get kicked out of that still like them, and that's Mia. And she's telling everybody how crazy they are for kicking her out.
Yeah, we found out that her teacher was actually...
I mean, Julius looks like the main leader of the party of the hero party. He looks like the fighter guy from their party. The hero. Anyways, sorry.
And we found out that the teacher liked her too, but she had to give her really harsh training so that she would be able to deal.
Totally not her mom.
Totally not her mom.
Her aunt that has the same blue hair as her. I mean, it could be from the grandmother, and the aunt had it from the grandmother, and it didn't go through. Anyways, yeah, it's obviously her mom.
Andrew was absolutely right with this show. I absolutely love it. In particular, I like the deadpan character, so having Philia as a main character just absolutely perfect for me. Going into this kingdom and kind of learning kind of the background of her, from, like I had mentioned, the teacher was actually trying to teach her to be a strong character, going into kind of showing that she was actually doing above and beyond for all of the people in the other kingdom, and how everybody in this kingdom are like, wait, you're going to do all of this stuff, and she's, yeah, this is just a light breakfast for me. What are you talking about? So yeah, I absolutely love it, and this is just working really well for me. I think it looks great. I like a lot of the characters so far, so yeah, I'm excited.
You're excited?
Yeah.
You're excited. Yeah, I'm like, I think the show's fine. I think the show overall is fine. It was a struggle to get to the first episode because it just feels so samey. It's again, oh my gosh, she's so amazing and she's doing everything. She's literally feeding the kingdom and keeping it together and protecting it and curing all illnesses. Like, she's literally she's making cures for things that have never been created before. But then, like, everybody hates her. And Like nobody likes her. Like literally nobody. Like you're just waiting for that kid to be walking down the street and randomly bumps into Philia and he just spits right in her face. I hate your face. Because she doesn't have a smile. And it's I understood when it come to like, yeah, merchants being upset because she's providing things that they're supposed to be charging a lot of money for. Like if you create a cure for an illness rather than, and you're basically taking from them being able to sell supplements or whatever, I can see that. I can see people being cutthroat behind the scenes. But like some of the stuff is just so comically evil. Like the mom and dad, like God, it's just it's too much. Like it is super like cartoon character like deviantness going on. But I think
why can't you be more like Mia?
Once Philia gets out of there, yeah, like that whole scene where Philia was in front of Cornelia, the mother, and that it's just, anyways. Once Philia gets out of there, then it turned into this second problem, which is like okay, I get it, everybody loves Philia now, and it's such this great stark contrast. My gosh, she's over here now, and that's going in like second episode, and it's just like, okay, I get it. Everybody thinks she's super sugoi. At least with what her over there, a lot of what was kind of carrying it for me was Rina and Leonardo. I love them kind of following her around. Even though, yes, it is the Sugoi crowd, it worked. It actually worked for me because like Lena and Leonardo's kind of personality was just absolutely working there. A lot of it's because I like Rina's character. Good job, boo. Good job, boo. I like them. I think I got a kick out of their like responses to Philia. And yes, it really did technically show this was everything Philia was doing, because we never got actually a full glimpse of what she was doing in the previous world or previous kingdom. That's really that's really sort of what is the problem there that a lot of them had, and Julius and the guards had with Philia, is that they didn't know exactly. It's one of those things because she was doing so much stuff. The people that were reporting what she was doing wasn't getting a full glimpse of everything. The guards were seeing that she killed some monsters, but they weren't seeing that she was putting up barriers over here and also, curing illnesses over here, whatever. It's getting a full glimpse of everything that she does. And then the Mia has to deal with that and the idea that she has to pick up the slack that now she's gone. So it was okay. But I think overall, like most stuff with Philia's side of things, most of the time is very mixed for me. Like in some cases it's kind of boring, but other cases it kind of works. And it's really around Philia kind of finally discovering, one, that she can want things now, but two, that she does care for her sister and want to do something for her sister and is trying desperately to get some sort of word out to her because she can't leave the kingdom now. She created a grand barrier. She can't leave. But most of my enjoyment actually comes from Mia's side. And that is like the funny, because again, going with the whole joke of this being the kick from the hero's party story, that's technically the hero's party story that I typically hate. Most of the kick from the hero's party stories, they go on their new adventure and they're finally appreciated. And then at some point they have to bring the damn previous party back, and how they're suffering now and they're trying to get them back. I like this one because it's Mia.
She's going to get him.
Getting revenge. I mean, here recently she kind of is trying to keep herself calm, but it's like, damn, Philia's gone and Mia wants blood. Like she's like, they literally kicked out my sister and they treated her like garbage. They sold her off. I'm going to make everybody pay for this. Like she's even giving out, like somebody shows up and says, I can take you to Philia. I can take you out of this kingdom where they're mistreating you, and you can be with Philia. The only person that she cares for anymore, because she's found out that her parents are garbage. And yes, she's stuck marrying Julius probably. No, I'm going to stay here because I'm going to make this entire kingdom pay. I'm going to make Julius pay, and I'm going to get things fixed.
I didn't see this week's episode, so
that's what I actually have been enjoying, is seeing what I would basically, I don't want to call this series the Two Perfect Saint. I just want to call it the sister that will shed
burn
blood for
now.
The Two Perfect Saint. Who I will kill for the Two Perfect Saint is what it's turning into. I like her character story more because it is, again, it's a little bit struggle there, and the idea that she even had her own like issues and how she so desperately wanted to follow after Philia, but there is like an element there where she finally realized at some point, oh, that's right, I never seen it, but they were mistreating her. Like she has a realization point at some point, that's right, everything kind of makes sense now. They never did treat her properly, and I did kind of miss that. But additionally, getting into how she can sort of navigate the current situation, put the people that need to be into play to essentially save the kingdom and ultimately, hopefully, get to her dear sister. That's pretty much what I've been enjoying. Again, the Philia stuff, it's been all right so far. But I'm really enjoying Mia's character. It's kind of one of those stories where I almost feel like the purpose of the whole thing is to have two main characters, because it does spend a pretty good amount of time kind of jumping between both of them. So I don't really see that Philia, the Two Perfect Saint, is the story. It feels like there's two main characters essentially. So pretty cool way to do it, and it's kind of working. I mean, that's Two Perfect Saint. Solid so far. Next one new we have is My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I have unfortunately not been a good boy in keeping up with this show, but I have been enjoying it so far. It's Vigilantes Boku no Hero Academia Illegals. It's running for 13 episodes, on by Bones Film, which is the new studio under Bones. Sources of manga. And yeah, this is a script work done by the creator of K series, which I thought was kind of surprising when I seen that, because I did like the original K series. But yeah, this takes place in the My Hero Academia world, where of course you have like Deku, and it's taking place before Deku gets his powers, because technically All Might is still around and doing his work. But it's like that time period just before everything around My Hero Academia, and it follows an individual called Koichi, who is, he's a type that's given the power of the Crawler, or he calls him the Crawler. He has the power that whenever he has at least 3 limbs on a surface, he can glide on it. Not very fast. Like, people can outrun him. It's not very fast. It's kind of a useless power. But yeah, it gets in this idea that, yes, in this world of heroes that are, again, technically assigned and licensed to take down those with superpowers that use them for bad, the idea is that you can't really do crime fighting unless you're actually licensed to do it. That was the same concept that they gave in My Hero Academia. You go to a school for it, you get licensed to it, then you become a hero. But yeah, there's this idea that, yes, in every situation, the heroes can show up to help people. And so there's this element of the vigilantes, or people that are not licensed, that will go around and stop crime when the heroes are busy or not able to make it. And that's sort of what this guy, Knuckle Duster, ends up dragging Koichi into. He's with girl named Pop Step. She's an local idol, and he ends up bumping into her at some point, and then some nasty guys show up and threaten them, and then this guy called Knuckle Duster shows up, jumps from the top of the building, lands on some trash bags, goes over, decks the guys, takes them out, and then pretty much enlists Koichi to join him as he, again, does vigilante work, trying to... There's this drug that's going around that essentially will enhance people's quirks and make them stronger, but it also kind of makes them go a little bit crazy. And they're trying to find the source of this drug and stop it, because, it doesn't seem like heroes are doing a good job of... the heroes aren't doing enough to investigate or whatever. So yeah, he's kind of getting dragged in that. And yeah, they eventually find where he's living in this one little shed that's on top of this one building, and they decide to make themselves a home there. I just love it. He's at home, and suddenly he's just realizing that they've just completely taken over his house, and he can't really even have a spot where he can, be comfortable. My thoughts on it so far, it's been okay so far. I do like the concept they have here, because they have already hinted at the fact that Knuckle Duster himself doesn't have a quirk. So even though it does seem like he's really strong, he's very resourceful, this is a guy that kind of just goes by his own knowledge. Like, yes, he jumps off the top of a building. Well, that's because he knew to jump on the bags of trash that will soften his blow, even though it still hurts. Yeah, at some point he ends up running into Eraser. Or is it his name Eraserhead? It was Eraserhead, right?
Eraserhead, yeah.
He ends up running Eraserhead, and Eraserhead assumes that he's using quirk as a strength, but no, it's just that he's just trained. Like, this Knuckle Duster guy literally, because he's so driven to be a vigilante and stop injustice, he's decided that he's going to essentially have to overcome his lack of a quirk. He's basically like a Deku character. In his own way. So I do like that. They're kind of playing off of Deku's character in Knuckle Duster in a way. Koichi's character so far, I think he's probably been the weakest of the whole show so far. He just feels like a guy kind of getting drugged into the whole situation. Most of my draw to keep watching the show is Pop Step, though. I love Pop Step's character.
Yeah, she does what now?
She hops, but she's a local idol, and I just love her design.
She skip bouncing from
like
place
a bunny.
to place.
bump, bang, bounce, bounce, bounce. Yeah.
Okay.
Like it seems like anything that she touches with her feet, like she could just bounce off it. So it's like if she hits the wall with her foot when she's jumping alongside it, she can just bounce off of that. Like she can just jump from wall to wall. I think like Strider. I think like Strider. But I just like her personality. She's cute so far. Love her design. Love her personality. And they kind of have like a cute little kind of blossoming relationship between her and Koichi already that I'm kind of liking. But yeah, just her alone so far has kind of been carrying it for me. But it's been a decent setup so far. It's just, again, the whole concept of the drug that's being spread around and causing people to go crazy, and they're having to do whatever they can to stop them and investigate at the same time. But I'll definitely be sticking with it. But it's been pretty solid so far. So far. What else? On Shirley. I love On Shirley. On Shirley is streaming on Crunchyroll, running for 24 episodes. I think we finally got the episode count for that. I think we were kind of questioning if it would be possibly 4 core or not. I mean, they could still do an On Shirley second season. I don't know if they're pacing it right now that would need to go that long, but yeah, this one is streaming on Crunchyroll for 24 episodes. The Answer Studio is the studio. Is that literally the studio? I forget if that was the studio or not. That just sounds so weird now I'm saying it out loud. No, stop. I did it twice. Can I control all?
Clearly not.
Shirley.
You're making it mad.
On Shirley. Oh my gosh, my anime list. You guys are dissing on Shirley. 7.81. God, people have no taste anymore. If it doesn't have boom booms, they don't like it. I'm just joking. I don't care what you like. Yeah, it's listed 24. Studio is the Answer Studio. Yes, that is in fact the studio. What else has the Answer Studio done? Oh, that's right. They did the Tower of God's new season, didn't they?
Oh God.
Yeah, they were doing that. Anyways, that aside, because the show looks really fantastic, so don't even worry about who's actually doing it. I was kind of curious, but for the sake of how it actually does look good. Anyways, yes, based on a novel, obviously, and a Green Gables. I always fumble over the name. Based on a book. But yeah, the genres are drama, slice of life, and of course, this has been adapted once before, like way back in 70s. What was the other adaptation back then? I don't know. It doesn't list. There it is. Alternative versions. TV. Back in 1979. It's been a while. So they decided to readapt it, apparently. They were like, man, all these shows are getting readapted. I mean, we have Yaiba this season. Anyways, this one follows a girl named Anne Shirley. She was living at this one orphanage. And at some point, she gets the great news that she's got a new family that's going to adopt her. And she's super excited. She's like, yes, finally. And it's at the Green Gables. That place is going to be beautiful. I heard about it. It's so gorgeous. I cannot wait to get there. She gets on the train, goes to the next train station, and there she sits alone waiting for the arrival of one of the two Cuthberts. Because the siblings, the Cuthberts, which is Marilla, which is the sister, and Matthew, which is the brother, they're both kind of getting up there in age. And they decided together they're going to adopt a boy so that he can sort of manage their land. And they needed purposely a boy because, yeah, they need some muscle. So she's waiting at the train station alone, waiting for him to arrive. And then finally when he arrives, she immediately runs up. You're Matthew, right? I'm so happy. Thank you so much for adopting. She just starts rambling, like just going off about how excited she is. She cannot wait to get home. She's so thankful that he's adopted, and he just doesn't know what to do. Because, like, this is a girl. This isn't a boy. So he kind of just, all right, let me get back home and I'll figure it out. So he gets her on the carriage. They go back to home. As they're on the way, she's constantly looking around. She's super excited. She thinks the view is beautiful. She's just talking about different things and what it reminds her of. And she's just yapping on. Eventually, they get home. And yes, Marilla, she's like, wait, that's not a boy. Take her back. Like, this is wrong. And of course, Anne, right then, I realized that was a mistake that was made. She's going to get taken back to the home, and she just immediately starts crying, and she's upset. What it kind of turns into is Matthew ends up talking Marilla into, let's just keep her here. You just talk with her a little bit. She's a lot of fun. I think you'll really appreciate her company. It's fine. Just give her a chance. eventually she decides, okay, whatever, we'll see. And it kind of from that point on just turns this whole thing where, yes, over time, they both kind of get this really nice. Shirley is literally a ray of sunshine. Like, this girl is just, she's bright. She loves talking. She likes to turn things into everything, or everything into something. She's definitely somebody that kind of looks on the brighter side of things and always finds something to kind of enjoy about things. She is a ray of sunshine. And that attitude that she has is literally infectious. There was a brief moment where Marilla was going to take Shirley back to the orphanage and get her swapped out, basically. But then this other mother shows up that she knew would probably mistreat shows up to take her, take over the role. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm taking ends up taking her, and they're basically officially adopting her. Beyond that, they pretty much have her meet one of the other girls that's nearby, Diana, who's like, her family's a little more upper class. She ends up starting to go to school, goes to church and all that kind of stuff, runs into different difficulties and whatnot with the people in the area. Get to find out the different quirks of her, like the fact that she really doesn't like people that make fun of her appearance, or especially her red head. So she snaps at people very quickly. She's got quite a short temper. But yeah, just kind of the misadventures of Shirley living in the Green Gables and all the different stuff that the Cupboards have to kind of deal with her on a daily basis. But yeah, I'm loving this show. I can't really remember. I mean, it's probably been quite a while back that if I did watch any of Shirley back in the day, I probably don't remember a single damn thing about it. But I will admit that, like, getting into this new adaptation, I have been thoroughly enjoying it. And I think a lot of, like, sort of the shock that I had is that I forgot what a snot Shirley was. Like, she is an absolute snot, and it's a good snot because she's entertaining. Like, there's times where I'm like, I would not let her get away with this. Like, I like, Marilla seems like she's super strict, but man, I would not let Anne roll over me like that. Like, she loves manipulating them. I get a kick out of how brutally she's overly honest to a snotty way, and people can't really refute it in a sense. Like, there's this one moment where Marilla loses her brooch. Or brooch? Is it brooch? It's brooch. Little, like, brooch. Anyways, she got this little pendant, and she loses it. And she immediately thinks Shirley lost it because she wanted to look at it at some point, and she said, no, I put it back. No, I looked in there again. It's not there. What did you do with it? No, I put it back. And it turns this whole thing where she thinks that Shirley lost it somewhere, and so she's punishing her. And it's very important. It's like a family heirloom. And at some point, she comes to realize that, oh, that's right. I know where it's at. She figures out where it's at. It was never Shirley's fault. But she had him locked up in her room, telling her, you're not allowed to come out there until you admit to it and apologize. And so, yeah, at some point, Shirley legit just goes, okay, I'm ready, because she just wants to get out of there. Yes, I did it. I'm sorry. I lost this thing. And she goes this big theatrical explanation about how she did it. And it's such a snotty way of doing it. It was the same thing with Rachel, because Rachel, like, straight up says, oh my gosh, this girl is so hideous. Like, she makes fun of Shirley and how she looks immediately when she first sees her. And it's like, oh my gosh, this lady's a bee, first of all. But Shirley just fires right back and insults her and her appearance. And it turns this whole thing where they force Shirley to have to go to Rachel and apologize to her. And so when she goes there, when she finally accepts to apologize, she goes there and she literally lays out, like, yes, you're right. I am ugly, and I am so sorry that I returned that favor to you and being honest with me and calling you fat or whatever. Like, she literally she lays out the same insults to Rachel that she did before in her apology, and Rachel just kind of is just, like, blank face for a while there, but then she ends up accepting it because of how, like, honest and brutally honest Shirley was, and just how she delivered it. Like, she completely wins over Rachel. And it was like, for a brief moment there, I thought it was because Shirley completely slipped those insults back in there again and this non-apology. But it just really feels like she wins over Rachel in the end. That's, like, literally this show through and through. It's just how, like, people react to Shirley, how she responds in sometimes negative or positive ways, and then just how she ends up twisting the situation to kind of fit her. And just how resourceful she is. She's smart. She's resourceful. She's a girl that's trying anything that she can in order to make her place and grab a hold of this one joy that she has, which is being there, and she doesn't want to lose it. and so she'll claw it as much as you can. The friends that she makes and how she will just claw to keep a hold of those friends. Like there's one moment where, again, this Diana, who she ends up making friends, her first friend there is Diana. Again, Diana's part of this, like, again, more upper class family. And at some point, they basically establish a friendship. They're like destined forever. They love each other. They will always be friends together forever. And at some point, she invites Diana over to her house, and she mistakes which bottle is another bottle, and ends up getting Diana drunk and really sick. And so, upon finding out about this, the mother does not want her to ever go around on Shirley ever again. And then it turns out later on, because of Diana's sister, I think it was sister. Diana's sister gets sick, like really bad sick. I forget exactly what it was that she had. And Shirley was familiar with this sickness because she, in her time growing up in the orphanage, she's had to live with a lot of different families, and one had a bunch of kids, and one of them had that same sickness. So she knew exactly what to do in order to help. And when the doctor finally arrives there, because they're like way out in the sticks, when the doctor finally arrives there, they're pretty much positive. If Aunt Shirley didn't come there and do all those pre steps, give her that certain type of medicine, the kid would have been dead. And so, yeah, it obviously pushed them. Okay, Aunt Shirley, this girl obviously didn't mean to give Diana the liquor. She seems obviously be a good girl. She literally saved our daughter. We can probably let her see Diana again. She's resourceful. She's smart. She's dealt with a lot of stuff in her past, and she definitely uses a lot of that to her advantage. And yes, use it against people sometimes. But she's a snot. But that's why I love it. She's a snot. And yeah, visually it looks really good. I think a lot of people had a little bit of fear coming into this show with a new adaptation, especially again for the Answer Studio. But I think they've given a lot of care. It seems like obviously they knew what they were getting their hands on, and Shirley is technically a very beloved property. But they're definitely doing a really good job of, like typically with a lot of these recent readaptations, like nailing that aesthetic of the old style, but again modernizing it. I think it looks really good. Visually looks really good, and they're nailing the personality. The seiyus are doing a fantastic job. Like through and through, I'm just really thoroughly enjoying the show. I'm really thoroughly enjoying it. And yeah, love seeing Anne bust her chalkboard over the top of the boy's head when he called her Carrot Head. I love that she's literally just staring out the window at school, just thinking about dancing outside on I think it was on the lake or out there or something like that. And he's going around to it like shows that this boy is like, all the girls like him. And so he's able to tease all the girls, and they just go along with it because they all like him. He finally, like, new target, goes over there, and he's trying to get her attention. She's just completely ignoring. He keeps saying different things about what she's doing, and she just completely doesn't hear a single thing of it because she's just, again, daydreaming. And then finally gets up really close and says something like Carrot Top or something like that. And then it's like her head just slowly turns back around, and he's just kind of like going, oh, crap, what happened? She just looks at him like disgusting boy or something like that, stands up, grabs her chalkboard, smack right over his head, and he's just done. Like, it was obviously he was just it was a tease, but he just failed to read the room. Like, he just did not know. It was like his first day coming back after being gone for a long time, and he didn't know that this girl was like, yeah, super defensive when it comes to insulting her, especially her hair. But that was just hilarious. Just slammed that thing right over his head. It was great. Anyways, I'm loving it. And Shirley, really great show. It's like I will say though, if you were like looking for anime, it's hard to say Anne Shirley is anime. It's just it's one of those ones where it's like it's like Apothecary Diaries. It's like one of those ones where if you are looking for like the stuff you get in anime, like fan service or like the comedy or whatever, you're not going to get this. This is like a story of a girl's life in an anime format. It is a very much so.
It's a Western property. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, but that's what I was saying. It's like again, Apothecary Diaries was just like it's a Chinese story with it's a Chinese setting with like some quirkiness of anime, but it's very much so like a period piece drama. It's similar to this one. It's very much a piece about, what is that, in Canada, right? Is that what Green Gables is?
Oh, I thought it was I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I mean, I haven't read it since I was a kid, so
I think it's in Canada, or maybe the author is in Canada. It's the historical garden estate in San Marcos, California. Maybe it was the author is Canadian. I don't remember. Who wrote Green Gables? Canadian author. There you go. There's what the Canadian is. There, I knew it was something Canadian. So it's a Canadian writing about California. Why would you write about California? Joking. It's joking. Anyways, that's Anna Green Gables. Or Anna Shirley, sorry. Anne Shirley. I guess the last one we could do very quickly is the Mononoke lecture logs. Lecture logs? Lecture. It's actually a pretty decent show. I haven't really gotten a chance to watch more than I think 3 or 4 episodes of it. But the Mononoke lecture logs of Chuzenji-sensei. He just solves all the mysteries. The subtitle. Love that. Chuzenji-sensei Mononoke Kogiroku Sensei ga Nazo wo Hodo ite Shimau kara. This one's running for 12 episodes, done by 100 Studio. 100 Studio! Sources of manga. Genres are mystery, psychological, supernatural. This one, it's a period piece. I think it's like Showa period, I believe. But it follows a individual called Akihiko Chuzenji, who is a new teacher at this one school where this girl named Kana goes to. And at some point, Kana, the student there, she ends up getting confronted by a couple of friends. And they're terrified because at some point, one of the friends, they came to the school with their boyfriend late at night to go into like this one upper area of the school. And as they were going up towards the upper floor, just up the hall from the library, they end up seeing this dark figure pass by the stairs and go towards the library. And then they were kind of spooked by it, but they decided to go follow them and checked the library, which is the only, when you go that direction, the only door is to the library. So they checked the library and they looked everywhere in there and they couldn't find somebody. So they got a little spooked. And there was like this whole story they end up finding about how if you spot somebody at the top of those stairs, misfortune will befall you, like you'll die. So the girl that was with the boy, she's terrified. And like, well, go tell the teachers. It's like, no, we can't because then we'll get in trouble because we were there at night, her along with the boy. And again, this time period. So she was terrified. And so they kind of push Kana into looking into it. So when she's looking into it, she eventually ends up bumping into Akihiko. Well, she goes there at the same time at night alone. She ends up seeing the same dark figure go by the door or the stairs. And she goes to look for it. She goes in the library, doesn't see anybody. Then as she's coming out, she ends up running into the new teacher, Chuzenji. I'm going to say Akihiko. I hate saying Chuzenji for some reason. She ends up running into the teacher, Akihiko. At which point, he ends up revealing to her something he didn't want to reveal to her, that it was, in fact, him that passed by the stairs. But the reason why he disappeared is that before the library door, to the right, there is a secret compartment to go into a secret office. And he doesn't want anybody to know about that, even though he ends up telling her, because this is sort of, again, during the time period, they had a lot of cases where the government was getting rid of a lot of different types of literature. And so they were hiding a lot of different authors' literature inside these like secret spaces next to the libraries. And this is one of those offices. So it has a bunch of literature in there that was hidden away. And he discovered it. So yeah, he doesn't want her to tell anybody, but she still needs to tell her friend how she's seen somebody and they disappeared. And so he ends up having her tell a lie to the friend that she exorcised the ghost and not to have to worry about it anymore. And that works. Everybody's super happy. Like, oh my gosh. But this whole introduction is to reveal that now everybody thinks that Kana is some sort of exorcist, that she's this problem solver that, whenever they have supernatural issues, they bring it to her and she'll solve it. But what it actually is that every single thing that people bring to Kana, she ends up having to ask Akihiko. Akihiko gives her some sort of answer as to what the reality is, and then works with her in order to not necessarily solve the problem. It's more explain the problem to people, or more so that they solve the issue, but they have to figure out a way to explain to people that it relieves their fears. One example.
at some point, one of the boys goes to this one bathroom that's kind of out of the way, and he ends up thinking that somebody is in the stall, but they won't answer the stall. They end up calling for a teacher. The teacher comes there. They bust open the stall, and the stall's empty. Stall empty? The stall's empty. My mouth's a little bit charged, so I can say words weird. And so they're fearing of the tail of the monster that lives in the toilet, that pulls people down into the toilet and eats them. So she ends up finding out through their investigation that what actually happened was there was a class happening with the female students nearby doing sewing, and one of them went to these particular bathroom, but the female stall is never used, so it was closed. And so she went into the boys' stall. And then a boy came in after her, and she got a little scared. The sensei realized this, came there, got them out of there so that she can then hurry the girl out of there, but then she relocked it so that they would still not know that she left the person out. So again, it's like one of those things where everybody assumes it's something supernatural that causes some sort of death or disappearance, but then Chuzenji-sensei will help Kana by showing that everything you assume is supernatural, there's actually a scientific reason behind it. This is what really happened. But in the end, they still have to kind of answer it to people in a way that covers the actual truth, if that makes sense. So it's always, the assumption is supernatural. It's actually scientific, but they, in a lot of cases, can't really scientifically explain it to people. There's kind of this whole introductory they have to the entire series where they kind of explain how everybody assumes that a lot of things they can't explain is obviously supernatural, but it's never, in a lot of cases, supernatural. Anyways, that's all to kind of get into my thoughts on the show itself. I'm okay with the show. Like, I think it's pretty solid so far. I think it sort of is kind of carried by Kana and Akihiko Sensei, Chuzenji-sensei, kind of being very stark contrast to each other, where she's just this girl that just wants to kind of, be left alone, but constantly she's kind of getting dragged into different situations that people are dealing with. And then she immediately goes running to the sensei, and he just wants to have nothing to do with it. Like, every single time she shows up at his office, he's like, you again, I told you never to come back here again. And she's like, no, I have this problem now. I need to figure this thing out. And he's like, oh gosh, okay, fine then, let's go figure this out. It's just kind of that whole, like, they don't want to associate with each other, but they constantly are going to get dragged to each other because of all these different myths and whatnot are coming up. So far, the mysteries themselves are not really that interesting. I think that's probably the show's weakest point. Like, even the recent one that I got into, which was like this one guy was losing his like position and like his wealth and everything was being lost, and the daughter was trying to figure out a way to know where to get his stuff back. It was okay. It was like this whole idea of this jacketed individual that keeps running down the street, and they were using counterfeit bills and whatnot to buy stuff. It was very shrug. I think the only one that I've liked so far was definitely the bathroom one, because it kind of got into, like, again, the teacher was sort of going out of her way in order to protect, the privacy and the ultimate like life-ruining embarrassment that this girl was going to go through for the fact that she went into the boys' bathroom, because that would probably have been extremely embarrassing. Like, all the links that this teacher went through just to kind of cover up for what her student had to do. And it kind of goes into later on, like, there was this other sort of mystery they had told on the side about this one, the mysteries of the school, that if you write down all the mysteries of the school, you get cursed. And how Kana at some point found a paper that was really old that apparently was wrote by the teacher herself when she used to go to that school. So it was like this cool little callback to like the first thing they kind of brought up in the beginning of the episode as it told this other story. It was kind of cute. That was probably the one little segment there that I actually did like. But the rest of it so far has been kind of okay. Like, they're not like spectacular mysteries, but at the same time they're not like, gripping or anything like that. But I think overall it's kind of doing pretty decently well, just from Akihiko and kind of chemistry back and forth, that I've kind of enjoyed so far. So it's all right. It's all right. Not really one that I would say go out of your way for, but it's been okay. I think that's it. Like I said, I am watching Go-Go Loser Ranger, but I don't really have enough to kind of talk about it with it so far. I'm kind of super behind on it. I've got like maybe 2 episodes into it. It's been an okay season so far. He's getting stuck with the Green Rangers right now and trying to hunt down different baddies The whole school being stuck in a school loop, I was kind of concerned about because I was afraid I was going to do that whole thing where like it does the reset back to the beginning. It's doing that whole storytelling where they get this far into it and then resets back to the beginning again, and they do this far and they reset back to the beginning again. But they're doing it good enough to kind of keep it fresh with the storytelling while they're doing that, so it's not bothersome. But yeah, I think that's it. If we missed a show, then I apologize. We'll talk about it later at some point. But I think that's it. I think we're done talking about spring shows for now. We'll come back and revisit this stuff in like a month and a half or almost 2 months from now when we do our reviews. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed these spring 2025 anime season first impressions. Definitely appreciate you guys' support. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, hit like or put like 5 stars on whatever platform you're on, all that kind of good stuff. We appreciate it. Again, otakuspirit.com is where all of our links are to social media, ways to support us, all that good jazz. We greatly appreciate you guys' support. But yes, until next time, any closing words?
I was waiting for the part where I say os, but
Y'all take care.
os.
Don't have to. You don't have to.